Wednesday, November 8th. We're in order. Okay. First up, engineering, Janice. Good morning again.
Good morning. So I have a few capital requests. Push some things out. Twin Bridge Road, I checked in with the state of Connecticut. They're leading the design on this project as well as all the funding for the replacement of the bridge, and their anticipated construction time is now fiscal year 2027. We had it for this year previously. The Clabber Hill Road Bridge replacement, if you recall, we had awarded a contract to Cardinal Engineering through our road improvement funds that we had available in order to start design on that when we received a letter from DOT that it's in need of replacement. So that kind of got bumped to a priority. We're going to proceed through lots of funding, which will be 100% construction monies from the state. And we've already submitted that application to the state.
What is the timing on that now that they say the bridge has to be done?
Well, we're hopeful we'll have, we're ambitious to think that we'll be able to start construction in the fiscal year 2026. So we're, design has already started. The application has been submitted for funding approvals. They'll proceed through design and permitting, and then put the documents together for final approval from DOT to advertise the project for construction. So we're hopeful we'll be able to do that within the time frame of getting it under construction in the fiscal year.
Did you say 100%?
Yeah, similar to Nut Plains Road and the Falcon Road project. LOTSIP funding is 100% construction monies from state bonding, but the town is responsible for the design side of it.
That's that has been recommended by the Council of Governments up to the DOT. That's part of the package that the COG has approved collectively.
Yeah, we received notification from the state. They have it, and they've given it a project number, so hopefully we're on our way. I'll skip the next one and go to the sidewalk repairs. We'll go back to the big one in a minute. Our annual sidewalk repairs, we're bumping it up. Costs have gone up, as well as we have a well-defined ADA transition plan that has identified the need to upgrade certain sections of sidewalk, as well as a lot of handicap ramps that need to be improved. So I wanted to bump up the annual investment, and that's from the 50 to 75,000 for the foreseeable future. Road improvements, working with Public Works, since I've been here as town engineer, I've been asking for an allocation of $500,000 per year towards our road improvements. We are awaiting the final report from Beta, who just did a whole inventory and review of all our roads in the field. We have a draft from them. So far, not looking too bad. I think it averaged around in the 70s in terms of our grading for our, condition of our roads, and certainly we have some that need attention. But once we get that final report, it'll be easier to really focus in on which roads are priorities. But we certainly know there's a need for these road improvements. With that report, we may find that we need to adjust this allocation going into the future. But for since we don't have it right now, I want to at least stay status quo with our 500,000. Per year. And then
that report, are you anticipating any crises report? I mean, any bridges that have to be done?
So they're solely doing pavement analysis. So they don't get into any bridges. But we just had a complaint and a review of a road that we received the complaint on, and that road only got a 46. So that indicates there's some roads that are in pretty poor shape out there, which, we know, but it's helpful to have it in a format that you can really drill down and and focus your energies to usually areas of town, so you don't have a lot of remobilization costs from, you know, the paving contractor, as well as really hit the roads that need it the most.
That study and assignment of critical needs creates a prioritization so that we can actually defend when people are calling in and saying,
Yes.
you know, what we need our road fixed.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things that come into priority too, is, you know, traffic volumes, you know, obviously, and then it's not just for full like pavement, it's also pavement preservation comes into play. Like if you already have a good road, you want to keep it a good road, so you want to do some pavement preservation, you know, work on it potentially, such as our chip sealing and our, you know, crack sealing programs, and, you know, looking into other options for, pavement preservation and improvements going forward, both Dave and I.
Thank you.
And then, you know, the big one is the DPW maintenance facility that we've been, you know, talking about for a number of years now. We do have a concept plan, and I've done an estimate for the project on the property acquired up on Route 80 by the intersection of Long Hill Road. We've completed survey to date, done, we did a design and then a redesign of our concept plan. Our original design and feasibility study was done by Silver Petroselli, doing an assessment of our current facility and our needs, as well as a concept plan for the new site that we acquired. We fine-tuned that building program on the site. Once Dave came on board as DPW director, there were some additional ideas. We went and looked at some other facilities and really fine-tuned what we think would serve the needs of both the Public Works Department and the Parks and Recs maintenance people. So I believe in your package, you have the, you know, concept site plan that was submitted with the request. The budget estimate that I did, this was not done by an estimator. However, I think it's, you know, fairly good in terms of Silver Petroselli's concept plan that they did a few years back with the civil engineer was around $28 million. You know, we've changed a few things. Time has passed in terms of, you know, cost increases. So I think a $30 million price tag, which was $30,000, would be a reasonable budget amount to proceed, you know, to the project.
Didn't we set the date and public hearing on that? What's the date?
No, we haven't set a public hearing on that. No, that's, there's a hearing, we've got a public hearing on sidewalks. That's coming up this week.
Yeah, that's tomorrow night. Yeah, what we discussed when I came to you previously about a month or so ago was, you know, do you want me to bring this forward? And we discussed it as bringing it forward in the capital plan as the opportunity. Yeah, as the opportunity to.
What would
to
be
consider.
the general timeframe of putting it before the voters and all of that?
We've got a ways to go, but it could potentially go on as early as the budget referendum, but I'd be wary of that.
Summer of 25.
Yeah, some point during the summer.
Yeah, and I recommend, you know, we had talked about assigning a building committee to the project, because all the work has been done, you know, in-house with staff or outside consultants without any, you know, inclusion of a building committee and representatives from both the Public Works Commission and the Park and Rec Commission, you know, to have some.
Yeah, I think that's good that we get all of that groundwork done. You know, we do have to get it before the voters, and you never quite know what's gonna happen there, whether modifications, changes, expansions, or contractions. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to get a feel for, you know, for plugging this into 2026. Reasonable, at least have it resolved one way or the other, whatever the number.
At least on the vote. And one of the other things I've tasked John, and actually we have a meeting tomorrow with a representative from Rex Development, because it's not just building a new facility. We're going to be left with a piece of property that could have significant value to a developer, mixed use development, et cetera, which in my mind's eye should be part of the overall discussion
Part
because
of the discussion with the public.
because there were significant opportunities to drive new tax revenues out of a piece of property that is not currently driving any revenues. And those folks who had insomnia and have taken the opportunity to read the Town Center South plan, this was always contemplated as a potential development area. As you know, they have some different zoning in that area, 60-foot zoning or height, building height, which, I think, presume that at some point we would be doing something down there. Now you start to add in the fact that it's transit-oriented development, it's adjacent to a train station, and there's state money available for transit-oriented development as well. So there's a host of opportunities that I want to try to wrap around. It's not just, okay, here's $30 million project. We need to do it. So John has been tasked with pulling that kind of analysis together. So,
Excuse me, Matt.
yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mike.
The fact that this is bonded, has there been any kind of indication of tax impact spread out over time based on what we already have?
Now, Mike, that's preliminary at this point, and by the time this gets to the point where we would actually be borrowing through bonds, it's going to be pretty close to the end of Mary Jane's fiscal cliff related to the high school bonding. So yes, there has been
That's why I asked the question.
There have been some discussions, but nothing formal at this point. So
Okay, thank you.
The goal would be that this doesn't hit at a high. Maybe 1 year we'd have a bump, but the project will probably come in about the time where we have a large decrease.
Yeah, as we get a
in debt. I
downslope.
think it was 2030 or 2031, something like that.
We're talking about that, but yes, that is.
good question, Mike. Okay, anything further for Janice?
Questions? No?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Next up, planning and zoning. Good morning, Ann.
Morning.
You're bringing backup?
I'm bringing a collaborator. So in planning and zoning, we have 2 requests this year. The first one is a joint study with health on septic systems and water supplies related to global warming. We want to kind of start doing the background research to understand how the state mandated 20 inches of sea level rise projections will affect both groundwater supplies and septic systems in low-lying areas of Guilford. So we're proposing a study that kind of begins the discussion, but also begins the just background scientific data to study the effects. Sonia, you're more cognizant than I am this morning.
So this is sea level rise and coastal flooding in Connecticut. There's a picture that I included that just was a picture sent to me on Friday. So we know that there will be a 20-inch increase, and there is a correlation between sea level rise as well as groundwater level rise. Currently, the separation distance from the bottom of your septic system to a high groundwater table is 18 inches. By 2050, that sea level rise, ground level rise is 20 inches. That 20 inches that we use from the bottom of the system to the restrictive layer is used to actually clean out the pollution, clean out the pathogens, the viruses, the bacteria. Why this is important, this doesn't just affect just the people that live there, but it also affects our entire shoreline. 2050 is not that far away. And the picture that I showed you at the very end, that was just because of spring or full moon, high tide, I don't know exactly the technical term, maybe, but spring tide, that was what we're dealing with. Now, B100A for septic does help us curb some of the development down the shoreline, but there's only so much it can help us do. Things can be grandfathered in. And it's difficult for us in our department to be actually allowing building and these things when you know that the septic systems could be underwater. in 20, 25 years. So I do think this study is important, and why I think it's a good idea to network with your planner, to work with your planner so that it's part of the town plan.
We've had some conversations about this, and there's more immediate concerns that we have right now related to groundwater and septic. And this board approved entering into a study for a very specific region. How does this fit with that larger study?
So this is going to help us. That study is going to be looking at the center of town. This is more for coastal low-lying areas. Both need to be addressed. This is more of an immediate concern, public health concern. This will turn into an immediate concern, or I should say, years to come, it will become a public health crisis if we don't start working on it now. Remember, we're on septic all the way to Old Line. So it's also Madison, Westbrook, all the beaches should really start to be looking at this. And it feels like we should have been starting this a couple of years ago, but the pandemic and a lot of health departments are a little busy. So this is a time when we should be looking at it. And I know that the state is starting to look at it as well as the EPA.
Do you think this is the kind of thing that the shoreline towns could band together for a study, maybe get some economies?
Yeah, and I
Because they're
think too,
all separate ones.
given that we're all dealing with the same issue, we can also be a leader in looking at this early and looking at solutions. Because there, like it or not, there's going to come a point in time where we have to consider things like community septic or systems where we're pumping up to a different geographical location to make things work. But, our thought is let's get the studies done, let's get the scientific data to show us where we need to start thinking about doing work. And then, but also I think with Matt's support, we can get out in front of things and be a leader for the state on this issue.
We are scheduled to meet with, or we're trying to schedule a meeting with our state representatives, Maura Rayner and State Senator Christine Cohen around, and it was purposely going to be after we did the capital plan, so that we can let them know what we might be looking for in terms of support out of the state. So I'm assuming that there are some grant funds available to do these kinds of studies already available or in place, in addition to any earmarked funds that we would get through the appropriations process. And we're going to try to take advantage of all of those opportunities. So whatever you can identify in terms of those grant opportunities for this kind of work, either at the state or the federal level, would be essential. And I think you both know we have access to grant writing specialists at the Council of Governments to assist the workload in trying to get through that. So.
Matt, I have a question.
Yeah, Lou.
I guess I'm interested in like geographically where they're studying. It seems to me that there's different impacts from this problem. And I understand the state's made some recommendations and we're following that in terms of, the likely sea level rise over time. But what area is this study expected to cover? Like the entire town, just the places that would be impacted by this 20-inch rise if and when it happens? Like, what are the parameters of what the study is going to look like?
I think, well, let me answer and then Sonia can back it up. I think we use the FEMA maps as the starting place and kind of buffer those maps with a certain amount of geographic information to give us a sense of the gross study area. But besides the FEMA maps, which give us a sense of where the floodplains are, there are also sensitive areas that are not mapped within the FEMA flood zones that are sensitive because of soil types. So part of the study is identifying where we are most vulnerable, and we don't really have that data yet. So that would be part of the parameter of the study. But my sense is it's, the area south of 95, generally speaking, or south of the Boston Post Road, though there may be pieces that reach further north just because of superficial geology and drainage and things like that.
Right, and is there any existing, for lack of a better word, mandate in place for people who are developing or redeveloping a parcel of property to address this question on a parcel by parcel basis?
The, the state building code, which is tied to FEMA, requires that, substantial rehabilitation or new construction be in compliance with flood standards, but that's the structures themselves that doesn't really address, septic or wells. That's just raising structures out of the floodplain, but Sonia would know more.
So one of the things that the WPCA is doing is redefining our ordinance. Okay, there is some existing information about low-lying areas that we do have in our office. There's also some information just on how low the septic systems are, how dense the properties are, and if there's private wells, which could be an issue with saltwater intrusion. So there's a lot of different areas that we could look at the history and kind of hone in on those areas with the FEMA map. The ordinance of the WPCA is really looking at being a little more conservative, more stringent as we can be, because more stringent to the health code, and actually looking at a higher elevation to groundwater. Instead of 18 inches, the state's going to go with 24. The thing that I handed out to you recommends 30 inches. Those are the types of things that the ordinance is going to be addressing, because we do need to get these systems up higher, even just in the next 25 years.
Okay,
That answer them?
yes, it's helpful. Thank you.
MJ, you had a clarification?
I just wanted to note that in anticipation of all of these studies, money has been already set aside in fund balance to at least get the projects rolling.
Thank you.
And you feel you have enough bandwidth to take all this on in the coming year?
I'm gonna try. Not have a lot of bandwidth, but it's important. So we have the plan of conservation and development, kicking that off next month, so this would be the next big study on top of that.
Anything further? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, Rebecca's on.
Oh, Rebecca's on screen. Okay.
Wait, one more.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. The second one is a holdover from maybe George, definitely Jamie. And this is a Route 1 corridor master plan study. Essentially a study to look at increasing developments happening over time on the Route 1 corridor. And though we've adopted new zoning regulations, there aren't a lot of standards for streetscape design, pedestrian improvements. How the look and feel of that development over time is going to happen. So we wanted to do a very focused study of the Route 1 corridor to look at what kind of tweaks we need to make to the zoning regs and development standards to make sure. I hear it a lot that people are like, we don't want Route 1 to look like Branford Hill. I'm like, I get it. But if we don't want it to look like Branford Hill, then we need to start implementing some design standards to prevent that from happening. So this would be a study of that corridor.
And we have committed fund balance for
Yes,
this as
for that
well.
too.
Yes. Yes.
And these are the things that we've been putting money aside for specifically
Right, as I
knowing
said,
that we're gonna
we've
have these.
anticipated that, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Any further questions on that corridor study?
Okay, thank
Thank you,
you.
Ann.
Thank you.
All right, Becky, you're online for assessor. Becky? Becky?
Oh,
Yeah, something.
dark.
Bueller?
She has a Tracy.
Bueller?
So while we,
Here she comes.
oh, she's coming up. Okay.
Hi, Rebecca.
Good morning, Becky. How are you today?
I'm well, sorry. How's everyone?
Good, good. What have you got for us?
Same old, reval, 2026, 2029. I tried to allocate funds based upon the increase from the 17 to the 22 reval on a yearly basis. And the other request is for near map which is a,
Thank you.
it's better to see it on the website, but to help with field work. To get to places that we can't get to. To see things we might not be aware of. It's aerial imagery, and we can also measure. You'll see it in the packet. We did a 2-week trial period and we found some hundreds of thousands of dollars of assessed items that we didn't have, patios, decks, things that we might not get a permit for, things that we might not be able to go and inspect.
Becky, I love this idea. We've talked about this kind of stuff before. In fact, we actually talked about the use of drones to evaluate properties, which is taboo. So how is this allowed, but drones are not?
It's aerial imagery. It's not, it's a flyover. It's not in somebody's property. I'm not sure if they do it by satellite, but North Branford is using it quite extensively. They have not had any problems. I can use it in appeals to look at the houses.
Don't we already use imagery in the GIS system? Photos of people's homes?
Yes, that the GIS, they do the, I think it's satellite mapping, where they do the flyovers twice a year. So some of it is only government used, federal government. We don't have access to some of it, so that could be the part where privacy is kept
Still
intact.
observed.
And this is subscription based.
Yes. But I believe also all the other departments would have access to it if they need it.
So for this slide into IT,
Yeah, it's why I've listed as other, it's listed as other funding.
Yes.
So yes, we already spoke, so Rebecca and Tony have already spoken. We'll be moving this into the IT operating budget, so you'll see that come forward again. That's what other,
That's what other is.
if you're looking at other.
Okay.
And I'll just also note, that all the reval, funding, we are anticipating that as well. We have money set aside, in fund balance. We don't have all the funding needed for both of these revals, but we anticipate hopefully continuing to fund those, being a little bit in each year. So, so all of her funding, has other
Other.
other source.
other sources,
Yes.
correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, anything further? Becky? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kevin, natural resources.
So natural resources has two things, and just one comment on the last one with near maps. I did take a look at that also, and it's, well, your question regarding GIS is GIS mapping is only updated every 4 or 5 years when the state does a flyover. This gives us yearly updates on what properties are, and helps us update plan metric stuff also, so it's part of that program.
Kevin, while you talk about that, this brings up a good point. I know that the COG is looking and has traditionally supported GIS access and cost for its member communities. I'm wondering if this is something that they might want to take a look at regionally as a regional subscription. So that's a note to self. Thank you.
We had a discussion regarding that, and I also mentioned that to them during a meeting we had on the GIS.
What kind of reception did you get on that?
Just okay, it's sort of well noted type of thing, but not really. I
Right.
think it was a new topic for them, so I don't think they were really fully aware of it.
Prepared, yeah. Okay.
Whether GPS or near map, does it identify changes, or do we have to go in physically look for changes?
If you hear a complaint on a property, you can click from like 24 to 23 to 24, and you can kind of click back and forth to see what's
So you
happened.
look at something, and if it looks newish, then you go back and do the research.
Yeah, if you get a complaint with somebody's doing an illegal addition, or somebody snuck something out there from a neighbor, or
Oh,
When the-
complaint, yeah.
So when the GIS updates, it doesn't say woo-hoo, Charles did something
Right.
different. It's,
Oh.
you have to,
Go in.
you have to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have
Look at
to,
it.
you have to view it.
And this system looks as if it has the ability to do accurate measurements, right?
Yeah, you can do, I think it has,
Which in standard GIS.
it's same measuring.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, we do area, we can do distance. I'm not sure if this one also gives you height wise. I'm not sure if it's done in a view where you can actually measure building heights, which is something we don't get on regular
GIS,
GIS.
right, yeah. Okay. All right. What do you got?
So, two things for natural resources. One is the storage building we're looking at having constructed and placed on Sullivan Drive property there. $25,000 for this upcoming year for assistance with engineering, any surveys, anything we need to done to get planning going moving forward. And then the construction costs the following season for estimated 120,000 right now. I need P and Z approval and stuff like that require some decent surveys. And engineering, because the property's been disturbed there, so making sure we have the forethought of really seeing what foundation costs and stuff would be. For what would be needed for foundations, that'd be correctly reflected in the construction cost. So that's that project there. And that building would be for the storage of, goes hand in hand. Right now, we're storing at Public Works facility down there and contemplating the move of them up to Route 80. Route 80 for my crews would lose probably a good hour a day, if not more, of my crews going, checking with me, going up, getting equipment and going to our properties. This actually leaves our equipment right out of our major property and they can go right to work from checking in my office here and then going right up to a property and getting on the tractor, getting weed whackers, whatever equipment they need and go right to work on a property. Then the next biggest one is Timberlands. It's right up the street from on North Madison Road, so it's not too far from this piece either. So it's convenient location that we're looking at there. Have to work out some coordination with Public Works on a small little plot that we can be placing this thing now without interrupting their operations, but it's a big enough area there for that. And then our annual maintenance, or should we say item here of aquatic weed control, the Quantapug. This current year, we're going into, we have a grant approved. So we have half the cost split for the grant here. The additional fees we have is fees going into the, right now it covers, fortunately, we're on a fiscal year versus a calendar year. So right now, the grant covers, would be covering our calendar year treatment, which would be the spring and summer periods here. So it goes in between our fiscal years here. So as part of the price estimate cost here in the budget goes into a third quarter, should we say, of treatments in the spring, which is not covered by our grant. So that's why it's, the grant would be, I think it shows about $45,000. That's why there's another $3,000 on top of that is to start the treatments for that following season before another budget comes into place.
So the grant's a single year,
Single, treatment year.
first time we.
So you're looking at from treatment starting in April, May, running through end of August, and then reports and everything else being developed, surveys, post-treatment being conducted and stuff. So that's on a calendar year, and fortunately our budget's on a fiscal year, which hops right in the middle of a treatment season there.
This expense is ongoing.
It's
as far as
ongoing,
you're
the things
concerned.
are, I mean,
Always.
we're starting to see some improvements there, and we're hoping as, especially when we did change to the chemical herbicides we're using out there. Preliminary report I got from the ag station, I should be getting more information in the next couple of weeks, is that actually did a fairly good job of treatment this year. If we keep it up, we may be reducing the chemicals because the treatment area may be suppressed and maybe eventually reaching a spot. Love to see in 5 years or so where you're doing more of a spot treatment than a large area treatment. That's our whole group's thought there. as long as people take care of their boats going in and out of the water. And that's a state issue and trying to get some state support on state boat ramps with having observers and stuff like that every now and then popping in to make sure nobody's backing in a boat with an invasive on it. We're doing all this work to
Yeah,
help clean up a lake, and then you get somebody that comes in and something falls off and we're
right back.
right back into the
Yeah.
situation there. But
Good.
for a recreation opportunity, it's spread out for the users there. We do get a small donation or help from Choate, which
Choate
uses the
stuff. That
lake
was one of
with
my
their crew
questions.
there. We get about $3,000 a year.
Right. So
From
is
them.
that 67,000 net of the choke contribution and the grant money, or does that get applied after the fact?
It's, the grant's pulled out of it. I think I may have Choate, but I'm not positive, to tell you the truth.
So, to be determined.
They said Choate's the only part I'm not positive. I pulled that out, matter if that's a small amount, I really didn't put into the
We have
calculation.
grant listed, but don't know if it includes both or one.
Okay, good. Anything further, Kevin?
May I?
Sure.
A few years ago in the facilities task force, we were very surprised when we asked Public Works where they would prefer to be when they were running out of space. And we were very surprised when they set up their Route 80. So you got to ask the question, optimally, where should your office be? Where's the best place for your office?
Well, my office is Town Hall South here,
No,
this
but
place,
what
but
if
my crew's working
Where do
Up.
they work most?
optimally is East River, Preserve, Timberlands.
Okay.
Um,
All right, so you're happy where you are.
Yeah. It's, oh,
It's a relative.
Yeah.
it's,
Fine
it's,
Not
with
existential
it.
question.
Make him say it out loud.
it's convenient location. It's,
Well, and there is, there are some efforts with land acquisition committee to acquire more land in that part of town, so.
I mean, for Public Works and their duties there, Center has almost been their park. I
That
think
would
they
have been,
found.
that would have been the place.
Yeah.
Fortunately, another mile, 2 miles up the road, Public Works came in and it puts them in close contact to a lot of major roads there. I mean,
Yeah.
you cut down to 77, Little Meadow Road,
Yeah.
Hoople Road North, cut a little bit into North Branford and back down, you're on Westlake Avenue. So it gives them a quite good span of area, a quick response to areas there from that location.
All right.
Okay.
Kevin, thank you very much.
Yeah.
For the Board of Finance members who are on remotely, just if you have a question, use your electronic hand, because I'll see that pop up, so that will be helpful.
Will do.
Kevin,
All right.
by the beach.
Rob, Guilford Free Library, come on down.
Oh, yeah, the beach. Yeah, does that work?
What do you got for us today?
Again, just reoccurring theme of building issues, as the facility that I sort of still think of as new is not so new anymore. Built in 2008 with a renovated space, so, we have, the flat roof inspected annually, by Tom Gibbs Jr. Tom Gibbs Senior helped us with the roof, back during the renovation project. And it's always been they patched it up a little bit. We had a leak this year, but the inspection for the first time kind of reminded me that the warranty is expiring in 2028 and it's time to start thinking about replacing it. So that I put into 2028, which would correspond with the expiration of the warranty. Then after a couple conversations with Steve Nydorf about the HVAC units, the advice is it's better to do that before the flat roof replacement so that when all the mechanicals are being installed, we're not tearing up a brand new flat roof. And they're also now date back to one of them dates back beyond the renovation, but the other 5. Now, with both of these figures, the two larger items, the 417,000 and the 212,000, this could be pushed back, perhaps a year or two, but I think it's just better to get it on the calendar for the moment. So those are the two big tickets. The smaller one is a library phone system upgrade. That could also be put up, but what we're finding now is, we always hesitated to replace the phones in the past because our bill is so cheap every month. And Sandy and I never quite finished why, but it just didn't work. But the hardware issues are now getting to where I'm replacing a couple of phones every year. And I think there's other functionality that we could improve upon as well. So that's just a $5,000 fee. There would be a accompanying slight increase in the monthly bill that I'll be asking for during the general budget. And then finally, as always, there's a computer replacement system in place, which is, the math basically adds up to a 6-year replacement cycle. So we have about a little over $60,000 of hardware in the library when all is not, and again, I always have to emphasize, this doesn't mean like 3D printers and, VR goggles. This is just the nuts and bolts computers that run the library, the circulation desk, the staff desks, and the net wireless infrastructure.
I think with the phone, it took me a while to figure this out, and I'm not absolutely sure, but I think it's partly because Charlie, who's out in the hall there, negotiated phone contracts for more than one department. And I think, so you might continue to still get a good ongoing bill. You just want to replace the hardware now, right?
Right, but when I talked to the Datatel who produced this number for me, they said there would be almost certainly an accompanying raise in our monthly bill as well.
And then the roof replacement, the flat roof. So the warranty is up, the 20-year warranty will be up in 28, but that doesn't mean the roof fails then, does it?
No, it was just, this is the first time the inspection report did show some wear and tear beyond just, a little patch here and there. I forget what the phrase is, when it starts to turn almost white because of the oxidation of the sun. So there's a lot more of that. So again, both the HVAC, it was on New England Energy Controls and Seal Tight with Tom Gibbs said this could be put up a little bit. But they both recommended, getting it on the 5-year plan.
Great. Okay. Anything further? Rob, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for giving us a heads up on what's coming down the road. Although. Gentlemen, ready?
We are.
Come on up. Ted is.
Sit up there.
Ted, Steve, and Chris. Chris, you're not going to sit at the big table?
I'm sitting here. I'm almost at the end.
Morning, folks.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
We, earlier this morning, at our Board of Selectmen meeting, we saw your revenues are at 60% for the year.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah, and that doesn't include the warmest November in history.
True.
Right, so,
Still good.
all right, what have you guys got?
So this coming year, we're looking for basically a suite of piece of equipment's gonna be useful for spring and fall cleanup. It's gonna be faster. And one of my main complaints from the neighbors is cut down on noise. Everyone right now is cleaning up their leaves. This sweeper can just kind of run out there and this has a convection system, sucks it right up. It's not gonna be 5 times less noisier than what it is. Right now, we're presently just blowing, and I do get complaints from a lot of the neighbors that the blowers are running all the time. Yeah, I mean, for the month of October and November. We're pretty much almost there for the end of the season, but we got like 70–80% of the leaves up. Cut down on my labor. My workforce right now are some retired guys. So it'd be nice just to throw the guys this piece of equipment that we're looking for. I can put it on there and have the first hole cleaned probably in about a half hour. You know what I mean? So.
So this isn't a replacement, this is
a new, this is called the sweeper, basically to clean up.
New device.
A little quicker and a little bit faster and a little quieter. Other departments can use it. We can probably clean the Guilford Green with it in 2 days. You know what I mean? So just down the road. So if the park department wants to use it, I mean, it's a very nice piece of equipment.
Is it self-propelled?
Yep, you just basically go on it and have the suction system, and it has 8-inch tines on it, rubber tines. It just has a vacuum system on it, and it just make a straight pass and hurry up.
So apart from this time of year in the fall, would you use it at other times too? Or?
Springtime and fall time. Yep, and I can also use it when I like aerate. Tony can also use it when we aerate the field. Batch. when we aerate any of the ball fields or baseball fields and stuff like that. So it's be a welcome piece of equipment.
And what is it, just unload into a truck or trailer?
Yeah, it has a hydraulic box on the back. You can actually load it into my dump, or you can actually load it into a dump truck if you wanted to. I have pictures of it.
So you have an area at this point in time?
I have a dump that I put on my leaves and present.
We don't want to find out we have to buy a truck.
Exactly, yeah.
This is what it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't on your request last year. This is just something that just came up.
I don't know if this would it make more sense that it would come out under the Park and Rec Department and be used? I mean, they might have more frequent uses of it than even the golf.
Oh, Sandy, a lot of the departments, well, the education department, and the park department, they have box trucks with vacuums. And basically, that's how everyone's sucking up everything.
Okay, well, it just
Just
made
let
me
you know.
think of it when you
Yeah.
said cleaning the green, because I
Yeah.
know that the rec department's been responsible for that already,
Right.
so.
And they presently borrow my blower when they do go and pick it up, so they have a 40 horsepower blower, which they don't have. You know, what I mean, so we are reciprocating it, but I just want to let you know.
And I can confirm that we can get some complaints about the blowers up at the golf course, also on the green. Town green, it may be combined with the combustion engines that they're using as well. So some of those complaints are both noise and the fact that we're using gas engines to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all just a point to point this out, I'm not being critical of this suggestion, but when we talk about a piece of equipment making us more efficient and saving man hours, unless we're gonna see an $80,000 reduction in the budget in those labor lines, it's really not an efficiency for the town.
Anything further?
Yeah, Matt, I have a question.
Yes, Lou?
Are there different grades of this piece of equipment? In other words, we're at the $88,000 point. Is there something at 50,000 or 45? Like, I mean, is there a small, medium, and large here? Why did you pick?
Lou, this is like the smaller to medium sized ones. They do have larger ones at golf courses, which are bigger, but they're, for 100 acres. We only have, 24 acres up at the golf course.
Well, that's my question, exactly. I mean, do you have exactly the right, I mean, I'm looking at their website. And it seems like they have different sizes. I mean, how did we select the size we're selecting?
It's basically a medium size, which would be perfect for the green or perfect for the golf course, just to let you know.
Okay. All right, anything further?
Okay, thank you.
I bring this up every opportunity I can, because it's been so dry lately. If you guys have looked into, if you ever contemplated digging a well for watering?
Well, like this present year, with September and October and November being bone dry, we also have to change our whole pumping system, because our pump house is hooked to the hydrants on the,
So you have looked
water.
into it, you haven't just,
So-
you've studied this.
Correct. Well, they studied it years ago, the Kamal Golf Course Commission. So that's kind of, when we did look at it, when, Vern Stoddard and Dunsmore was all on the commissions. My ponds presently at the golf course are probably down about 8 to 10 feet, just to let you know right now. And that's just natural. You know what I mean?
My point is you wouldn't be drawing for the ponds, you'd
Right.
be drawing from the aquifer beneath that feeds all the lakes. And I don't want you to think that I'm asking, in fact, you could fill the ponds with the stuff that comes out of a well. So if your water bill now is gonna be in excess of $50,000 and you drill a well for $50,000 and it costs you that much to hook it up to the system, does that look like an ongoing efficiency? You don't have to answer me now, I would love it if.
Like last year,
The bottom of that.
I'm just saying, last year, can I just roughly tell you? I mean, last year, I think we spent, $15,000, 16,000, I don't know, like somewhere in that number for water at the golf course.
Okay,
To put in a whole, well system and then, hook it up to the irrigation system to water the golf course. It wasn't worth it back then.
okay.
That's what I was told.
Years ago, I saw a bill for $55,000,
Yeah.
years ago. So I don't know how we're doing at the moment,
Not for water.
like for water.
I think my highest bill ever was like 25 or 26.
I'll go ask Mr. Mazza. Yeah, it was when he was around.
And that was one of our drought years.
Yeah.
2016, 17, something like that.
Probably.
A fairly good drought.
Probably.
You could certainly do.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Historical look back
It
at
just,
it
it
as
just
well.
seems where you're
if-
sitting, it seems that, you know, you're sitting on a lake and you're watering with potable water. It seems odd. That's all.
I think it's worth looking into,
Mhm.
putting a well in and seeing what that would cost and tie it into the irrigation system.
Right.
Like had been done in the past. I don't know how long, how much,
Yeah.
how far back that was, but
I mean, are we pulling irrigation water out of a pond or are we pulling it out of
yeah, for,
potable water?
Say from fire.
Where is the water for irrigation coming from?
Connecticut Water Company.
Mhm.
Connecticut water.
So you're not pulling it out of the pond?
No,
No,
no, the ponds would be bone dry if we pulled out the ponds. You would have to, most golf courses,
Okay, I
Who
thought
are
you were
pulling
making
out-
some
No.
point
pulling out the
about
pond,
the pond.
you have to have like a 30-acre pond, and then you have wells filled in the 30-acre pond to keep it replenished. That's most
Well,
golf
what was the
courses.
point you were making about the pond being low? It's just the fact that it was low.
Just
I thought you were
evaporation.
making,
Well, I was just making an observation, you know, with the dryness.
so that had nothing to do with
I
irrigation.
think the point was if they were going to be using the ponds, they're low even without using it. So
Right,
were they, if they were
Not
using the
necessary.
ponds, it would be empty.
Right, completely.
Yeah.
so the water budget this year is
23.
24,000.
Yeah, 23 change. I just
Yeah.
did the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Smart
Definitely,
pants is-
definitely worth.
I think last year we were spent approximately 20,000. We were below budget last year on the water line item. This year will be challenged to be within that 24 because of the drought that we're experiencing now.
I don't know, but you know, like Bittner Park and all those, we're taking out town water too, correct? They're not on. Are they
They're on
on wells?
wells.
They're all on wells.
Yep. Connecticut water does not go up 77.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Sounds like a good project for the golf.
Do you-
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that by the time we reconvene to go through the budget proposals, we might have some information on this, possibly?
Tell somebody.
Yeah, because we have to build something back in for capital. if we're gonna drill a well. And change the irrigation system, the pumping, et cetera.
But we would have time to do that if it came forward for the operating budget.
Yeah.
Well, before
Yes,
that,
before that,
Right.
yeah.
right, we should just.
Yeah.
Good.
Are you, if you're using Connecticut Water Company, are you using the water company's pressure with the irrigation system, or do you have to attach a pump to increase the pressure?
I have a 5 horsepower pump that goes onto our irrigation system, which increases the
All
pressure.
right, so where the water comes from doesn't change that. Okay,
It has the correct amount of pressure to do my irrigation.
I know, but if the, if you could look into it, I think it'd be worth it at this point, those
Yeah.
kinds of numbers.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're up.
Chiefs. Good morning, gentlemen.
Anything in there worth stealing?
The code?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I thought there was somebody following me.
GQ up.
I know, I just, for a minute, I
Both
didn't
of them.
recognize him.
Both of the police chiefs are, because I told them I would recognize.
Sources for those different ones. and I don't
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
For that one.
What have you got for us? We start with fire.
Sure. Start with fire. All right, so we'll go with first the ambulance remount for next year. The 4 ambulances that we have now, the last one that's being purchased will be the last one with a complete new chassis and new box. And then the remount process will start about a 10-year program of over the 4 cycles of that program, switching out the chassis with the vendor.
So next year we'll start the first remount of the newest box on the, and the 2011 is the chassis that's on that box currently. The Marine 10 motors we had last year, we've been working on trying to get a port security grant for it. We've put in twice. We have one more, we have it budgeted, but we will try one more time in the port security grant program to get funding for that before we have to replace it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this next grant cycle potentially get a grant for it. But hazardous materials equipment and technical rescue equipment, those two lines are both for our continuous sustainment of our equipment for in hazmat suits, boots and gloves and meters. And we replace stuff over 10 years, but instead of doing it all in one lump purchase, we spread it out over the 10 years. Same thing with technical rescue equipment, which also includes ropes for rope rescue, trench equipment, dive equipment. So everything for our technical rescue program has a life cycle of 10 years. EMS glide scopes, those are intubation devices. We have one on each one of our primary paramedic units, our 4 ambulances, our rescue truck, and our squad. That's what we use to intubate people. Our existing glide scopes or current existing intubation equipment is end of service life, and we're looking request to replace those for the ambulances.
How many are there?
6 total. So 4 on each ambulance. So 1 ambulance has each one, and the rescue truck and the squad. So everywhere there's a paramedic, there's that equipment. And today's technology is everything's like video scoped, or they're able to see on video to be able to accurately put a tube in somebody's throat. So it continues to, greatly increase over time with the technology increases. Our fire headquarters sidewalk replacement. We have, and this is 2-part, the headquarters outside door maintenance as well. From say years of using the salt on the sidewalks is really starting to eat away at the concrete and the bottoms of all the door panels. So this would replace the existing sidewalk or completely refinish the sidewalk out there because we have a lot of uneven surfaces and chips and cracks from the salt use. And the same with the doors at all of our entranceways where they get low-level rust and that salt is just eating away at them. So they need.
Those are new doors?
No, those are original doors from 20 years.
No,
That's refurbishment. So the company that gave us quotes is refurbishing all of the doors and the frame around it and restoring it. So it's not full door replacement or full vestibule replacement, like the front where there's the vestibules.
First, clean up with paint?
No, there's a lot. I say it's not just paint. So yeah, grinding down paint, but also anywhere that needs Bondo or any type of attachment adhesive. It's a pretty big job.
And you feel, I get those on the building committee, I'm particularly attuned to natural affection for that building or whatever. But I've noticed that the sidewalk and doors have never been perfect. Is there any? I'm just wondering design-wise, because it seemed to me that, fairly soon after the building was built, things were noticeable about sidewalk drainage and the doors and that type of thing. I just wonder if we're at the point maybe of.
That was mainly the front and the patio, Charlie, that was giving those problems, and all those have been replaced.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. This is the back, the back sidewalk area that has been eaten by the salt. Yeah, you're exactly right. The front sidewalk and the patio, and they used to have the cherry trees there, which they made no provision to train, and they drowned the cherry trees. So they took those out, and then a couple of modifications, but the right one was done. Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Change order things.
Your recollection is correct.
All right.
Defibrillators is the last on there. This is the defibrillator EKG monitors. Those are our 6 primary heart EKG monitors that are on the 4 ambulances, the rescue and the squad. This is the last, I believe, 5th payment, correct? 5th payment of the 5-year lease program for that. So this is the last payment for that. And then that's it for fire. Do you want me to just do the one communications?
Yeah, let's bump into communications.
Okay, comms, communications UPS replacement. This project will replace, I believe, a total the number 2, 4, 8, 12. So 17 of our UPS systems, that's uninterrupted power supplies. So those are the backup power supplies on all of our servers, radio tower equipment, or not servers, I'm sorry, servers and computer systems to be able to, if the power went out, the generator goes on, it takes the surge of the computer and it keeps that uninterrupted power supply for everything.
The older ones are end of life,
And the service.
end of service, okay.
And these, as everything gets replaced, these newer ones have, I call them, they're much smarter. You know, anytime it switches from normal power, street power to the UPS, there's notifications sent out to Jay or IT that for some reason this switched over. So if it's abnormal where we didn't lose power or the generator didn't kick on, that there's an indication that something more may be going on. So it gives him time to react if, you know, the lifespan of the power supply is gonna, we have to switch over to.
What was the lifespan? I know you said these are at the end, but what was?
It's a good Jay question, but I'd say the ones we've had that he's replacing have been there for a while. In terms of years,
5 to 10.
5 to 10 at least. They're, once we put them in, they're there for probably closer to 10 years, I'd say.
It's an internal battery on constant recharge cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a battery that can take us,
You said that 17.
another lithium, they
for
can
that?
take 5,000 to 8,000,
And they're all lithium
Cycles.
ion and right, they could take multiple cycles over
Yeah.
time.
and it's, I have one, that's why I'm asking. It's probably 5 to 8 years, most likely.
Okay.
Now, so this isn't all of them,
No, it's not all of
right? So
them.
we're not, I hate to replace everything at one time. so
No.
we have
Oh,
the
it's not
potential
the
of-
17?
No, it's the ones that need replacing. We're not replacing every single UPS. Some have already been
That seems
replaced.
like a heck of a deal for a while.
No,
So how many do you think you're replacing?
That is
17 total.
17 out of what we took, but that's not all that we have. We're not replacing everything.
All right, so let me ask you, if we're doing what has to be done in 2026. So it's not, it seems to me that that would become an annual thing, that you'd have a certain number every year that would need to be done.
So good question, and I have to look at exactly the total number that he's identified for replacement and total number that we have over time. I just know that these, I think we've done some, we did some in capital, I believe, just.
I'm
within
just
the last-
thinking of as a 5-year
previous
plan,
capitals.
if we're gonna be doing the ones that have to be each year, and we got $20,000 this year, it would seem to me that.
And I think previous capital budgets within the last 2 or 3, we've had 20,000, I believe 20,000 for
maybe
UPS replacement.
So maybe
This is the-
7, 8, 9 are breaks.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I'll follow up though and verify.
These things are a decision you either have them or you don't. Usually when you decide to have them, you put it a ton at once.
Yeah.
So those are the ones.
Well, I just, as a 5-year plan, should we be planning a few a year? You know what I'm asking.
I think if we look back at capital, it's there for the last two capitals, it's there.
Some of them are replaced underneath the operating budget too, because they're not a substantial
Okay.
item.
You know what I'm asking.
But they're a very critical component, because even the radio systems now run on UPSs.
Gotta try a new name for them,
Yes.
All right, anything further?
unless they're all brown or something.
Are we good?
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You gonna send in the GQ guys?
It's all warm for you guys. No problem.
Took the heat off us. Softened up.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How we doing?
Good, how about you?
All right.
Ah,
Everybody have a nice weekend?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Keep this very efficient for everybody. A lot of these are things that we ask for every year, so. So just starting with if everyone's ready.
Yes.
Okay. So just starting with the vehicle line, so for next fiscal year, we're budgeting for 2 patrol vehicles that are due to get swapped out, one unmarked. That may be either a replacement or a new vehicle. We are, part of our operating budget, we're discussing, potentially adding to our detective unit. We may need another unmarked vehicle for that role. That'll be coming with the operating. And then pickup truck, we've had a pickup truck, this current one, since 2006. It's gone through a couple of significant storms, including a couple of the major hurricanes that we've had, and a lot of driving through salt water, and the undercarriage is definitely starting to show that wear and tear. But we want to try to budget for another pickup truck to replace this one. The mileage isn't extremely high, but the wear and tear on it, it's definitely showing. And it's actually almost old enough to apply to be a police officer with the department. So we think it's time. Vehicle components, typically a patrol vehicle is going to be around a little over $21,000 to upfit that. That includes cage, all the lights, the radio equipment, all the wiring, the storage for weapons, all those things. And then administrative vehicles are trending around the 17,000 realm, depending on the light packages and other things for storage that we put in them, depending on whatever role that vehicle is going to function in. Computers are, I have computers in there as well, looped into the components. Computers are pretty expensive now. They're about, with installation, they're running around $4,500 per patrol vehicle. Those computers that we purchased last. So we're hoping that those are going to actually mirror the lifespan of our hybrid vehicles that we're trying to push out for a longer period of service life. So hopefully these computers, as we're putting a brand new one in each car as it's going out there, it's going to last the full 4 or 5 years that we're trying to get out of the hybrid vehicles now. I should mention that we are attempting to buy hybrid vehicles for all the vehicle purchases that we're doing. We've had some pretty good success working with the Board of Selectmen as of late to get a lot of hybrid vehicles in our fleet. So we currently have 8 right now. Yeah.
They're working out all right as far as daily operation.
Yeah, and the hope is that as we get the fleet more transitioned over to the hybrids, the idle time for the vehicles is what really beats them up over time. And I know we've talked about that, so I won't go too in depth, but essentially the idle time it's for a gas powered vehicle for our purposes when they're out there idling and not actually driving. At the end of the day, the numbers for the idle time, it's almost as if you drove 3 times as many miles on the car.
You said that you're hoping to get a longer lifespan from the hybrid.
Yes.
And that was 3 or 4 years?
So we're hoping that we can get 4 to 5 out of the hybrid vehicles, depending on.
Will that lifespan potentially require battery replacement?
No, not that we're aware of in anything like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, if there's any battery replacements that come up, I would imagine those would be covered under warranty for the vehicles as part of that extended warranty for the hybrids. Because that would be substantial.
It's gonna be interesting to find, like I say, that's the ghost in the closet or the elephant in the room or whatever they keep talking about.
Yeah, it would be a very substantial cost, I would imagine, but the hybrids come with an extended warranty as well that helps cover that.
The vehicle upfit and components, is that for the 2 patrol cars and the pickup truck?
So that for next year, that has 2 patrol cars, an administrative vehicle, and the pickup truck.
Okay.
So there's 4 vehicles covered under there.
Okay.
And part of that is as well for 2 computers to go into the patrol vehicles. So I'll go into the big number that we have on here. Right now it's a placeholder for the building improvement project. I know we've discussed it in various settings over the last year or so. The police department is approaching 28 years in age. That age is showing in some areas more strongly than others. We've probably needed a new roof for a few years now. We've been kind of kicking the can down the road, but it's time for a new roof. We're discussing the capabilities of our department to house a enough female officers to be able to support 30 by 30 initiatives and being able to up the amount of female officers that we're able to have on our staff. Currently, we have 7. We only have room in our locker room for 10. And if we want to try to get up to 30% female officers, we need room for about 12. So we're hoping to relocate or actually add on to the building to add space for a female locker room. Garage, we were part of a project with the fire department to potentially do additional storage and garage space on site. That project did not pan out, and the fire department is currently adding 2 bays, but we're in need of adding to our Sallyport for several reasons. So we have some pretty high value equipment that sits outside. It gets weathered. That's certainly going to affect the service life of those items. We really need more room for storage. So the hope would be to have a second floor for the garage space if we can expand our Sallyport so that we can move a lot of our items out into that area and get them out of the main police building so that we have more room in the building for more pressing needs like office space and other things like that. And then also the Sallyport, we want to try to actually get garage doors and bays that are wide enough and tall enough to be able to fit an ambulance in, our command post to be able to get those vehicles inside. So it's important for the ambulance. We want to be able to bring an ambulance inside if it's required for patient care for a prisoner that may be in our custody, rather than have to walk them outside to get into an ambulance. It's procedurally, it's a better option to be able to have them pull into a secure facility and then do whatever we have to do. So, and then this number of, I have 6.5 million in there as a placeholder right now. This would also include some other smaller projects in the building. All the windows really need to be replaced. There's several windows that are inoperable. If you open one of those windows, you have to go outside and go close it. You know, they're wood frame windows. So over time, they're due for replacement. We're going to want to do some security upgrades on the building, in particular the lobby as well. And also our kitchen is also aged and is in needing of just freshening up a little bit. And I'm also accounting for any other HVAC, electrical, plumbing, whatever else needs to be accommodated with this type of project. So we are working, we're going to be going to the standing building committee next month, beginning of next month, because we have bids for architects. So hopefully, if the process continues to move forward accordingly without any hiccups, we're hopeful to try to get at least a construction estimate from whomever the architect is, so that we can present that better number once we get into the end of January and into the real part of the budget season here.
So this is really, like you said, a placeholder or a true ballpark planning number. You don't have any, specifics. And that's, do you have, at this point in time, do you have any number for that, whether it be architects or engineers or planning? Do we have are you just starting that request?
We're in possession of 6 bids, I believe, and ranging from 111 to $645,000. So we're working through those. And
the other question then is for the planning and everything, and especially for the building, do we have enough space on that property?
Those are all things that we're going to try to find out. It is tight, but that's what we're going to pay an architect for, to help us try to use their creativity and try to make something work.
All right. Okay. As part of the potential plan to simply enclose the Sallyport, I think that's what you call it, where they're just
So the Sallyport is where we have the garage bays. It's a drive-through. You have garage doors on each side. We have 2 lanes essentially.
Oh, I thought the Sallyport was the carport type thing.
Yeah, that's the carport's a separate, and actually we're going to try to expand that as well with this, just to fit more of the patrol vehicles underneath the carport to protect them from the elements. But the Sallyport is where we actually have the garage doors that we can pull in.
The carport, I always wondered, even when they were originally built, I mean, is that for cars that are going in all day long and that type of thing? I always wondered why they weren't just garages.
It's really just, I think it was the most economical way to put a roof over the patrol vehicles that while they're sitting there, at least they're not collecting snow
And that's more for the vehicles that are just coming and going all day long, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've generally had we have most of our patrol vehicles under there.
Yeah.
Several that are not right now, but the goal is to try to get them all under cover. So.
Okay. Be interesting to see, something to look forward to. Well, will that all have to go to public hearing and everything if that,
Oh, of course. Of course, and this would be a bonded capital project as well, so.
I'll just note that we are using current bond authorization money that was set aside for upkeep of the police building, a new roof. We are using that money for the engineers. So it's already money earmarked for that building. We're just using it for the
yeah,
engineering.
sure. Well, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And then just moving down, another project for this year. We're just looking to get $5,000 for a couple of new patrol bicycles. We're trying to make the program a little bit more popular in the building. We have a couple officers that got certified last year. We're going to be looking to certify some more. We've gone out and bought bike racks. So the bikes that we have are, they've been there a long time. I know they've been there as long as I've been there at least. So just to freshen those up, get a couple of new ones in and encourage the officers to go out and take the bikes out actually on patrol. They put them on the bike rack. They can go drive in a car and then get off out into a neighborhood on one of the bicycles and go ride around. It's a nice program. We're trying to make it more popular, certainly adding a couple new bikes and freshening those up would be very helpful. The bikes are expensive, but they also come with bags on them and other things, lights, things that the officers need for it to be able to function as a police bicycle. So that's the cost there.
So you're not replacing the ones you have, you're adding to them.
Yeah, there's really no reason to replace the other ones. The goal would actually be that we can get more officers trained up. That I'd love to see them be able to go out for more of the larger events, the fair, handcrafts, and try to get more officers out on the bikes. I think it's great for community policing, and I think the public really likes engaging with the officers when they're on the bicycle. So we're going to try to do that. Do LPR.
Sure.
Okay.
In an ongoing effort to leverage technology to the maximum potential, we would like to request $155,000 for 19 fixed license plate reader cameras. These cameras would be strategically deployed along Route 1 at major intersections, primarily where they intersect with I-95. These cameras would not be used for traffic enforcement purposes. They would be used for crime prevention and investigations. In addition to that, the cameras would alert us to any vehicle that was wanted by another community for a criminal act in another community in Connecticut or beyond our borders, as well as for missing persons as well. It's a force multiplier. As we know, we can't have police officers at every intersection at every time of day. Technology is filling those gaps, and this is the latest technology to be deployed in communities throughout Connecticut. Madison has recently invested in these cameras as well. If we really want to safeguard our community from what's going on with these stolen vehicles, burglaries, and these evolving crime trends, which we had some actually occur here last week in our community, I think that it would be a wise investment to move forward with. There are some legacy costs that go along with this. After 5 years, we would have to pay some fees, licensing fees for the cameras, but that would go into effect in 5 years. In fiscal year 25-26, there would be some additional fees for SIM cards for the cameras as well. And in fiscal year 26-27, there would be a $6,500 annual contract as well that we would have to pay for. But we would, no, that's for the total, all the cameras in total.
So will we see that in your operating budget?
That would be in our operating budget moving forward. We're asking for 155 capital, and then we would go ahead and we would fold those licensing fees and legacy fees into our operating budget moving forward.
Don't we have some license plate reader in the cars, in a car too?
We do. These are different than those. Those are used for the same purposes that this fixed LPR system would be used for, but additionally, they're also used for motor vehicle enforcement.
Part of the discussion back, I think it took a couple of years even to get the license plate reader in the car. Part of the discussion at that point in time was, how do I put it? I mean, you know, looking for cruising for violators or whatever the term was used at that point. That doesn't sound like that's what this is at all. It's simply picking up
we want to
violations that are already in existence.
Yeah, we want to safeguard our community from
I
crime acts.
don't want to get into I think I understand how you already described it, but I just, without getting into the mechanics of how you do police work. For instance, a car comes off the highway that, you know, is stolen or whatever the reason be. I mean, what would the camera do? I mean, other than tell us that it's cruising around our streets, I mean, it was gonna notify a patrolman right away and go, you can't chase the car anyway.
Well, that's a good point, but we would use the information, at least we know they're operating in our community. They're here, we know where they came in, we know.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Whatever system this is connected to, it immediately notifies the dispatcher that this car just came off.
It's real time.
Sends a photo too.
And we're talking, did you say how many did you say?
19.
New world.
It is a new world. It is a new world. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's biometric technologies out there now. We've all heard of, and we're not asking for that, but there's all kinds of,
You're on exit 50.
Yeah, it's just become that, it's become that complicated, but I think if we're gonna stay contemporary, progressive, modern in our efforts to safeguard this community, I think it would be a wise decision to move forward with this.
Matt, I'm gonna have a question when you guys are done.
You got it, Lou.
You all set, Charlie?
Yes, I'm sorry, yep.
No worries. So, Sal, thanks for all that explanation, and this sounds like a useful thing. When you guys describe this as fixed, I mean, does that mean they just, once they're installed, they can't be moved, or are they relatively fixed? If you decide that one's in a location that's not particularly useful, how difficult is it to up and move it to a better spot that's more useful?
We would have to work with Eversource or Frontier. We piggyback off of their utility poles. We could potentially move them if need be. Some of the research that Lieutenant Jacober did with this project was to identify those areas in town where we would get our greatest return for the investment. But they could be moved if need be.
Okay, so they are installed and it would require some effort, but it's possible.
Yes.
But you guys have already put sounds like you've done some data analysis on the best locations.
Yeah, we've data mined our RMS systems. We looked at areas in the community that would provide the greatest ROI, if you will.
Okay, and then 2 or 3 questions here. They're sort of related. The response time, your summary says it goes to the police. That's the Guilford Police Dispatch, and that's it. This doesn't go like to the state police or any place. This is internal for our town.
So the system is connected through the state of Connecticut's collect system.
Okay.
And it actually, all the information is available to all police departments that either have a LPR reader on a police vehicle or a fixed LPR reader.
So is there any possibility of a response by the state police? Or is this just a trigger response by our department?
If if the state police was actually looking for a vehicle, they input, say for instance, they had an armed robbery in Westbrook, and they input that data into the system. If they are notified that we have a hit here in Guilford, the potential for them responding to Guilford is likely.
Okay. And are there, this is maybe a little bit of a technical question, I suspect. How long have these things been in effect? How long have they been operating the equipment?
They were first implemented on the police cruisers maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 years ago on the actual cruisers. Fixed LPRs, they're starting now to become more popular, more mainstream, but communities are starting to adapt to them. They want to know, they want that real information on who is operating within their town. These are very useful on the midnight shift as well. We have people that are in town, perhaps reconnoitering the community for commercial burglaries. We know who's in and out of our community.
Wow. Well, that actually kind of brings up two sort of other related questions. Are there false positives occasionally?
Not that I'm aware of. Martina, did they give you any
So-
information on that?
So the, I don't know where the camera is.
Back there.
Hello, hi.
Hi, how are you? So the LPRs have a camera on them. The particular company that we're looking at is called Recore. And they send an actual image of the vehicle and the plate. And there is, I think it's 98% certainty on the, when they send the hit. So the dispatcher and anybody who has the availability to look up the image can verify that information just based on the image. It can go up to, I believe it's 120 miles an hour. You can still read the plate.
Wow.
So they're incredibly effective. If you go to Recore's website, you can actually see how the cameras work. It's pretty informative. They've been in, the good thing about Recore is there's a lot of agencies, especially the shoreline towns, that are utilizing their camera systems. So as you were talking about sharing information, we can utilize that data. So say we have a shoplifting at our CVS, oftentimes that same suspect is going to go to, say, another shoreline town to hit another CVS on their way in or out of, where they're headed. So that information can be shared with multiple towns on the system, should we allow it. So, most towns are agreeing on sharing that information just because it is so crucial to our investigations now.
These can't be a million miles away from license plate readers for tolls.
Correct, no,
Right?
they're very similar.
Very similar.
They've been
Yeah.
in use for years.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very high volume.
yes, yeah.
You all set?
All right,
Lou?
all set. Thank you. Thanks.
It sounds like these readers have to connect this and do some comparison for information to give you alerts, okay? Can it operate at all as simply a camera like they have in the cities where they just surveillance type thing?
No, it's not like that. It's not a surveillance camera. It's triggered by the motion and then it
just reads it.
it reads the
compares it.
plate, yes. And typically you get a pretty good visual of what the vehicle looks like, because sometimes we do get plates that are switched. Obviously, they're stolen plates put on another vehicle. So that becomes very helpful when that image is sent, because we know it's a stolen vehicle. But that vehicle, that plate's gonna hit back to, say, a Hyundai Elantra, but now we have it on a Ford Escalade, or a Ford Explorer. So we know now instantly we're looking for a different vehicle with the stolen plate on it. And to your point of not being able to chase, yes, property crimes, but if we start to flood that area, they're more than likely not going to be very comfortable staying in Guilford, and might be able to be more likely to flush them at least out of town in other towns, or bless you, on the alert that this vehicle is hitting the shoreline area.
Are there any grants or that kind of stuff for this?
Yeah, we started looking into one last year, and certainly that is an option. But there's no guarantee on grants, so.
Okay, yes.
You are pursuing.
But they are,
Yes.
but they do exist.
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions. power and communication link. Are they solar powered? Are they, you have to tap into Eversource for power
Yep.
feeds? And what's a communication link? Is it satellite? Is it cellular? What is it? Or telephone line?
They're
also
hardwired at the pole.
They're hardwired to the pole for power. The power is about $4 a month.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, so there are multiple options, so we haven't fully explored all of the options for the locations, but there are several businesses in town that have signage that has electrical, and they've voiced that they would be very happy to have them placed on their property. So that would have to be an agreement that we would have drawn up later on. So that would kind of limit some of that expense because they would be absorbing that cost. The other thing is that it runs on cellular, so that was the SIM card cost. That would be monthly.
Do you, go ahead.
Those are my two.
If we were to move forward on something like this, do criminals get a sense that communities are more aggressive in their enforcement? Do you think this could operate as a deterrent?
I personally believe that if you are a individual who's looking to come and take advantage of a community and you have an idea that this technology is in place, you're probably less likely to target this community. You probably want, they're like water. They look for the path of least resistance.
Yeah, that's where I was trying to go to, because
we're trying to target Hardin's community to make it a little bit more secure by leveraging technology. I think that as we move forward, the community grows. We're going to have Target here on Route 1. It's not a secret. When we had Walmart down there, we would get hit frequently for larcenies, shoplifting.
well, even like you were talking about the car, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you were just talking about the car. I know social media that, there's a buzz periodically about, the car thefts and the break-ins and all of that kind of stuff.
They were operating here last week. They were in our community last week.
I think it's been going on longer than last week, that's for sure. And, you do get a feedback from social media, or I know even myself, in social settings, it's part of the community conversation.
Yeah.
And things like this can slow some of that down. I think it's got some value.
It connects us with a greater network of law enforcement agencies that are using similar technologies. It gives us real-time information. We know where they're going. It helps solvability of crimes as well as prevention. I hate to say it's the cost of doing business now in law enforcement in a modern world. If we're really going to put our best foot forward to protect the community, we have to really take a look at this.
I do know for a fact that in Madison, there was significant amount of pressure put on the Board of Selectmen to do something, particularly as related to auto theft, break-ins and all that.
One question. Does this lend itself to doing it over multiple years? Like if we didn't want to make the whole plunge in the first year, could we do it over two? Or another way of looking at it, if it works great, could we expand to more than 19 after a year?
Sure.
Work that way?
We could build a system.
Yeah, so I mean, they can do a year contract, or, they could do a 3-year contract or a 5-year. We chose 5-year because it seemed more economical.
I think she's talking the number.
Yeah.
Oh, the camera numbers.
Instead of
Yes,
19,
I'm
we
sorry.
do 5.
Yes, yeah. The issue is that for intersections, you need to have a certain number. So it's not just one camera per intersection, because you're gonna get multiple.
Sure.
So say you were to do like the Goose Lane area, right? So that particular intersection would require multiple cameras.
I see.
How many would an intersection, the turnpike?
I think that, minimum you would need 2 for that intersection to cover the lanes,
So
but
we
if
did 2
you,
or 3 at each of the 3.
right, that's why you're adding, that's why there's a lot, yeah. So,
I'm sure the price would change. But it is something we could do. We could do 5 or 10
Yeah.
for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a graduated implementation, certainly, I mean.
But maybe with, if we did all, I'm sorry, 15?
19.
Yeah.
Then the word gets out that, things are being monitored here.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with, advertising that we are safeguarding the community. That's where I look to Lieutenant Jacober's very savvy and sage social media skills and public information
It worked for me,
ability.
finally.
How could we potentially, if the entire budget cycle, means that we have to make some cuts and everything, how would we do it? Would we just say, half of this or 100,
We did kind of like an assessment of different intersections and areas throughout town, not just Route 1, but including Route 1 and other major arteries. So we examined, where our primary numbers of thefts are. I mean, they are all over town, but we see a larger percentage in certain areas. But trying to get like the most ideal areas, especially, highway coming in on and off. I mean, typically what we have is, people coming into town on the highway and then flooding through areas and then leaving the highway. So, those areas were pretty critical to try and grab that information. And then, other areas in the north sectors of, where we have other arteries where people may be coming south into town, from Durham area or North Branford or North Madison area. So we wanted to target some of those areas as well. So just trying to saturate the areas that we know that people would probably go through a main artery to hit at some point while they're here to get either in or out. And so they all seem to make sense. We could certainly try with just a few and see how that works. I mean, obviously that was the reasoning behind it. We really kind of wanted to find areas where we know they're coming in, we can capture that information, and then we can immediately respond to it and make sure that we're addressing it right away, rather than hearing at 6 o'clock in the morning, we have 7 entered cars and, 1 stolen. We can hit it right when they get into town.
Would you be able to come up with a plan, though, that we could have, so when they're
we don't want to know where the camera is.
No, I don't mean that. I might plan, by plan, I mean, this year, if we did these 7, you know what I mean? Just so that they had something.
Yeah.
So if the budget needs to be
tweaked
a little bit,
Yeah.
that I think they don't want to just say, we're gonna give you half the money if that's not gonna work.
Exactly.
Right.
They want to know something that would work,
Right.
spreading it out somehow across 2 or
Sure.
3 years.
Absolutely.
That's okay with you guys.
that or
Murphy's law is that they're gonna drive into the areas that we don't put the cameras out.
Yeah.
I do have to say, the locations are selected to capture really the main thoroughfares coming into town. So if we start picking and choosing which ones,
Yeah,
it almost defeats the purpose of having them at all.
I can see that.
So that's gonna be just a conversation to have. I mean, maybe there's, we could certainly do that.
And I don't think anyone's saying they're gonna cut it, but
Yeah.
No.
it's just,
An
it's
idea.
nice to have that
Yeah.
information.
Mhm.
And if the conversation is, no, it works best to have all 19, then so be it,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
without the data, they can't have a conversation
Just
about it.
one more clarification. The $6,500 is an annual fee for all of them.
That's like an annual maintenance cost. It's
Yeah.
absorbed in the first year of that 5-year contract. But then after that, so year 2, 3, 4, and 5, we'd have to build that into our operating budget.
Okay.
and
But it is a cost that it's 65 for all of them.
Yes.
Okay, I think we've beaten that.
That was a good conversation.
Exactly. No, I'm supportive of the concept.
Yeah.
And you still got 5 things left.
Well, the next one's really easy. This is solar speed signs. You've probably seen a couple of them that we got through a grant through the state. There was a program where they were giving out a couple of these solar speed signs to different towns. So everybody got 2 signs. You'll see them in several of the other communities around us. We'd like to, we had 5 that are battery powered. Those are reaching end of service life. We've had them for several years. The batteries for those are actually becoming very challenging to locate. We can't just go buy them from the vendor. We have to go find someone who can make them, which is becoming challenging. And also the issue with those battery powered ones is that if the battery dies in 2 or 3 days instead of 4 or 5, and we don't get there until the 4th or 5th day to go swap a battery out, we end up losing data. We're not capturing data for that time frame, but then we can't go and grab like a week-long snapshot from a particular street to take a look at the data. So the benefit of the solar speed signs, they're not as easy to move around. We'd leave them in fixed locations for a longer period of time, more like 3 months instead of a couple weeks. But they're cloud-based data, so the officer doesn't need to go park on the side of the road and connect via Bluetooth to the speed sign and download on the side of the road where it could potentially be hazardous, just being parked on the side of the road. They could do it from the comfort of the office and pull some data. And really, these are visual deterrents, anyways. For the most part, we're really trying to use these more in conjunction with increased enforcement in certain areas. And we also purchased another device that's going to be actually used more for the speed data collection. These are really, at the end of the day, these are really good to put in an area, give that visual feedback to somebody that they're going too fast. And, we can leave this out there for several months and we can collect the data. It's just.
What's an example of the data that's collected?
It's speed data. So it's
how many cars are going, how fast?
Yeah, we can see how many cars are coming through. We can see how fast they're going, what the average speeds are.
And how many of these, did you say 5?
So we currently have 5 battery powered ones that are reaching end of service life. We have 2 solar signs that are similar to this one, or these ones that we're asking for, and then we're gonna ask for 2 more. I budgeted 7,500. That should cover with the inflation.
That's for 2.
That's for 2, yep. One of them actually that we did get through the grant got damaged. We're still trying to fix that one. Somebody tore that down, damaged it, so we're hoping to fix that. Yep. But I think we get a lot of good feedback from the public about the presence of these signs. People are always asking for them to be out on the street, so I think it's a good investment, and 7,500 should cover it by the time we're able to order it with inflation and whatnot.
When you put those 2 new stop signs up, the one on Stepstone and Little Meadows, like 3 years old, I guess, I thought that was great. I don't know if that was solar with the red flashing lights around it.
So that was actually the one that got damaged as well.
Oh, because that one,
Got burnt down.
I lived there and I thought I was great when you put that stop sign up, but I thought, I wonder how, I kept stopping anyway because I never believed that the people coming up were gonna stop. But I thought those red lights were great. And then the new one on State Street saved me once from falling.
Oh, I think you're talking about on the actual stop sign. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think they're great.
It's
worth it.
Yeah, the next one's pretty straightforward. Our primary server is at end of life, so we're requesting $17,000 to replace our primary server at the police department. And the last item is an ongoing obligation that we're responsible for. That's for our body armor. Body armor cycle of life is only good for 5 years. So we're asking for $12,300 to replace the body armor that has come up for replacement.
Very good. We keep that in there as a capital item. There's some years that the amount dips down very low, but it's based on the hiring cycle. And unfortunately, it's hard for us to gauge if in a year that we already are replacing a lot of vests and we also do a lot of hiring. Unfortunately, the number rises every 5 years for that time frame. So
That's a good point. You see, it does dip down to $2,300, but for continuity, normally we would not leave that in. If it was a standalone number, we would not put that in capital, but for continuity, we have that in capital every year.
The server, that's for primary storage. Are there any options to, cloud or all that other stuff?
So typically, we found with the cloud that usually the costs are a lot higher than if we can host something physically on site. We've gone to cloud-based for our body camera and mobile video camera. Certainly the cost of running those in this current program being cloud-based is a lot higher than it was when we were working with a vendor that could store the data on site. There's certainly advantages for backup and everything like that if you are storing it on the cloud offsite through a secure server. But for these purposes, these servers cover any of the files that we have that are on our local computer system. We just replaced the backup, I think it was last year, and that was around 15,000 change. So
you've explored it.
Yeah,
Asking the question.
this is going to be the most cost efficient thing, and having those two servers is going to be cheaper than
Okay.
Subscription on the cloud.
yeah, and we have control over this.
Just wanted to explore it.
All right,
As always.
anything further?
Yeah, I have two questions about the body armor.
You got 'em.
Does it, it says that obviously sworn officers are provided a body armor when they come on duty, right? That's still the town's equipment. If they happen to leave, the vest stays?
It depends on how much they've used it. Quite frankly, if they've been with us for a few years, we don't want their vest back. Because they wear it up against their body and it's personally fit to them.
Yeah.
So typically it's not something that we hold on to.
It's not really transferable. And that sort of touches on my second question, which is, oh, sorry. What is it that wears out? Is it the vest, or the plates? What wears out?
It's the manufacturer's warranty on the fabric that is the Kevlar. So they warranty it for 5 years. They say it's going to be effective for 5 years. So, and we go off the manufacturer's warranty.
It's a
Why, you
breakdown
wanna
of
test it,
sweat
Lou?
and all that stuff, breaks down the Kevlar over time.
It does. Okay. I'm just curious that it seems like something would be durable, but if that's what they're saying.
No, in fact, heat and extreme cold can also affect, I just went to a whole thing on body armor, and between your body heat, your sweat, and then just being exposed to elements in that course of the 5 years, it breaks down the material to the point they can't guarantee that it will stop around.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's
for life safety purposes, we want to make sure that we have something under warranty.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
gentlemen.
you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Steve, come on up, Town Properties. Good morning. Good morning. Howdy. What do you have for us?
2 new items. Number one is removal and replacement of the roof at Social Services, 263 Church Street. Currently, there's 2 old roof layers on it, and it's time for a new one. Any questions on that?
How old is that roof?
It was there
When we bought
way
the building?
before I was, yeah. Yeah, it's gotta be 2025.
Yeah.
10,000
10,000 is a good price, you think?
Yes, yeah, that's dumpsters, permit, everything.
Got it.
Number 2 is I'd like to replace the 2 electrical services on the town green. One on the east side, one on the west side.
Got it.
Just to update them over the years, we've had so many contractors in there for the events on the green that panels are shot. So my hope to do it is new green cabinets. I'd have like a homeowner, or I'd have a landlord panel that nobody's allowed to go into. That would feed what I would call a tenant's panel.
Got it.
That contractors can get in and touch that one. That way it leaves mine alone for the Christmas tree light, the post lights, the outlets on them, so nobody's in there changing and messing around with any of that.
Okay.
and that's for 20,500.
That's in fiscal year 2017, 2027,
2027.
27. Good. Any questions? Do you know how old those panels are, the electric panels on the green?
Gotta be 2025.
Okay.
Well before I was here.
Got it.
I can
And
provide,
I would add more to the.
I remember little electrical outlets hanging off of temporary poles for a Christmas tree.
That's right.
if you log into ClearGov for these, there's actual pictures.
Okay.
So,
We will. All right, any other questions for Steve? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I mean, it isn't necessarily a question for Steve, but just thinking of a long-term plan for that building that we want. You gotta put a roof on it. Use it.
it could be, outside could use a little
Sprucing.
sprucing up when I go
Well,
by
they
there.
did-
It's,
They did some.
It looks
some
kind
with
of
the,
it look-
Goldbergish.
yeah.
I,
let's-
I was under the impression we were moving our way, turning that
Yeah,
into parking lot,
that's
so I
what I-
stopped doing anything. Now I've heard that we're probably staying there, so I added a wall and data lines and everything else, so that's why I'm going forward with
Yeah.
the roof
We've been
and then we'll
long-term
do something
planning
with the
it for so
siding.
long that we
Yeah.
just,
Right, we're at a point where the outside is looking pretty.
you can't.
Services.
Roof just needs.
Now that protects everything else.
Yeah.
Something
The
else?
building looks like it needs social services for itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, they like it, they always like it.
Might just need it. Just look at it when you go by, just
Not
Right.
the
What's
highest
next?
level town facility that.
for
we have.
sure, for sure.
Yeah,
What's
but
up
they do
next?
like where it is, 'cause it's out of the way. not-
Well, that's.
not-
Location.
Innocuous, and that's what they like.
Not in public eye. All right, Public Works, Dave, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I think it is still morning. Just for another 5.
So,
What have you got for us, my friend?
all right, so the. So one of the things that we're asking for capital wise is a large welder. Go to the back or left. That's all right. A large welder. We have a welder in the garage right now. It's about 40 years old. It's time to replace it. That one I'm asking for next in fiscal year 27.
Got it.
And that one comes to $9,813.
That would be able to be moved if it had to be.
Yes, yes. The next thing we're asking for is mechanics, sockets, EV safety equipment, which is for the electric vehicles. Transfer tank. So what happened was our foreman retired, and when he retired, most of the big tools we were using were actually his personal tools. So we have to refill them, you know? So one of the things is the sockets, EV safety equipment. We don't have currently anything for that. But we're gonna be starting to service these vehicles. They have to go to training for it, but they need the equipment to actually work on the equipment. There's also a transfer tank in there, so their service truck right now currently doesn't have one. So what we do when we go to the transfer station, or if something breaks down on the side of the road, is to bring buckets. So with the transfer tank, they would just pull up with the truck. It almost looks like a gas pump. They would put hydraulic fluid in it. That's primarily what we transfer all the time. And that's what they would use. And that's for that. And then
How much do you think, I don't have the detail open, I'm sorry, the EV training and safety equipment, what kind of a number could you estimate that would be?
well, I asked for a quote on EV training for the mechanics, and it's $21,000. So the company said if you get a bunch of towns together, then you're talking about $800 to $900 a mechanic for a 3-day class. So I'm reaching out to other departments trying to get this group together. So I have that in my training budget already for sending them to it. So I'm holding off on that until they actually have the tools. So when they go to class, they can use the tools and learn how to use them.
Okay, so that's the training part. What about the equipment number that's in here? Ballpark.
So the ballpark,
Have my details.
let's see here, so for the, let's see here, we got a clamp, safety cabinet.
My biggest question, I guess, is going to be whatever the number is. I'm not surprised about them anymore, but is it vehicle specific? So will we do with this equipment, will it be for whatever vehicles we have now? And then when we get another set, we're gonna have to get another set and that type of thing?
No, it'll be for all vehicles. It's not vehicle specific. A lot of it is like gloves, like you see linemen, and there's a hook. So if one of them's working on it, someone's supposed to stand there and pull them away, that kind of thing. But they're not vehicle specific.
Okay, so
Every
it's not
vehicle.
something that's gonna be ongoing.
Right.
There's always be something. We all know that.
Right. So the tools, it's 5,000 minus the 33, so it'd be around 28,000 for the tools for those. Another thing we're asking for is a welding machine and a drill press. Now, this welding machine is a small portable welding machine that they can cart around in the shop. They don't have one right now. And so that's what that machine is for. The big machine is just stuck in the corner in the back. So when they're working on park and rec stuff or board of ed stuff and they have to do something quick weld, well, you got to take the stuff out of there, move the vehicle over there. When they have this little cart, they can just move it over and weld. The other thing on that one is a magnetic drill press. So when they're drilling frames or bodies, they have a big drill press, nice one in the shop, but this one actually attaches to the vehicle so they could drill stuff safely on the sides or, and that was one of the big tools that they missed since the foreman retired. That total was $7,984. The next thing we're asking for is an under rail guide mowers. So what it is an attachment. We have a lot of like rail in town. The big one we see is the one over by Bishop's on the corner there going up Long Hill. All that guide rail there. So it's usually send two guys with weed whackers and they weed whack that. This is an attachment that goes on the front of the mower. So one guy gets in the loader and he just drives. And what it does is it weed whacks underneath. And then when it hits the pole, it automatically kicks out, kicks right back in once it goes around the pole. So it just keeps weed whacking. So to keep the guys out of the road, you just have the one loader and that's it. It just goes. That price tag on that one is $30,100. The next one that we're asking for is $7,109. That is a blower attachment for our mowing tractor. So right now when we mow, we get a lot of debris in the back. Have to send a guy out there, blow off the street after. Now when we mow, if we get any debris in the street, it's a blower. It's mounted to the back of the tractor, just blows all the grass out of the road. That makes it actually safer for people on motorcycles, bicycles, that kind of thing, because we're keeping the grass and all the sticks or whatever we generate from the mower out of the street. And that total is $7,000. That's actually, I found a cheaper price, $7,043.55. That's on state contract. The mobile columns for the vehicle lifts. So I had priced out two. So for $99,000, they're roughly around $50,000 a piece. It's $99,520 for two of them. That's on state contract. And what it is they have these mobile columns that they have in the garage. They're red, they're on, they can move them by hand and they all sync up together. So when they lift the vehicle, they just push one button on one and all four of them go up at the same time. Well, we have 6-wheeler trucks where you need 6 of them. And we have one set or random set of just 2. So what they're doing is they're taking a truck, like a vehicle, just say, and putting one here and one here when your wheels are here. So you only have the 2 in the front, one in the front, one in the back. To make it safer, we want to put one tire on each lift, which is what they're designed to do. So you lift them up like that. With a 6-wheel, like I said, you need 6 of them. And then with these 2, we'd be able to do a 6-wheeler and another truck if we had to at the same time. Right now, we can only do one or the other. So that was, that's on state contract as well. The other one I have is a forklift, $30,333. That is for the forklift we have now. It's a little over 20 years old. And this is with, that $30,000 price tag is with the $5,000 trade-in of our old forklift. Also on state contract. And then the replacement of the Bobcat skid steer, I still have that in for 2028, and our various drainage projects that we do in town. We have that at 35,000. That pays for our pipe, our stone, catch basins, anything like that we do on the road. And then the other one that I wanted to add was the Vector.
Talked about last 2 weeks ago, right?
We did.
All right. Questions?
Yeah, what about other stuff in the future years?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Because I see that we're all front heavy all the time. So I have, actually, I have stuff that I want to start putting out in future years.
Yeah.
I just haven't, getting someone to give me an accurate estimate is tough because they're like, well, that's 5 years, prices go up. And I'm like, well, let's estimate 3% for the, over the year.
Yeah.
To get the 5-year number. So they can't wrap their head around it for some reason.
Yeah, because we can, we're not gonna hold you to that number 5 years from
Right.
now.
Yeah.
We understand that it's, but at least they like to see the thing in the list.
Right.
You know,
Right.
yeah,
No, we can put it
so,
in context, like,
Yeah.
Today's
like,
price will do the rest.
Right.
right.
so like having the Vector for the first time, it's really a substantial item. It's
Mhm.
hard when you can't picture what else is coming over the next few years.
Right.
So you think maybe by the spring or the winter, when we look at have the regular budget presentation, we'll take another look at this at that time, maybe at that point.
Yeah, I should have,
Plug in.
I did reach out to a few vendors about this, so they're all working on it, but yeah, I could definitely put
Yeah,
a number.
and we can certainly get them plugged in
Alright.
before we
You know what?
finalize, 'cause
Let's
they
just
won't be
give
finalized.
them a little chance here. When you say you're looking at, so you're talking, you've got some other things you want to fill in. You're not talking about moving any of these necessarily.
No,
No.
not necessarily
No.
moving any of these,
You're just talking about additional items.
right.
So,
Yeah.
this is Charlie's question, but I'm just gonna ask it again, and I was listening as you said them all. All these things are things that, even if it's 5 years before we have the building, they will be able to be used, they're not gonna be left behind.
Right, they're coming with us.
That foreman took a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he,
Yeah, well, it was his stuff to
I
begin
know
with.
it was. I'm sorry.
Let's be careful how we
Yeah.
word
All right,
that.
at what point did it become his?
Well, it's pretty standard in that industry.
That you come
Mechanics
with your own
travel
tools.
with their own
That's
tools.
right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that's
Eliminate-
that's why the
Auto
state, that's why
mechanics for
safety
sure, right.
shows them, guys can buy whatever they need.
oh, yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
selling to you, they're selling to the guys.
Yeah, one of the toolboxes my mechanic bought is $14,000. And he pays out of pocket. And I mean, it's crazy what they spend on tools just to get the job
So
done.
that's answering my question. Then. So that practice is still going on. If somebody else were to leave, we'd have the same issue again.
No, because unfortunately, all of my mechanics now are young. So they don't have this giant stockpile of tools that the foreman had. So that's why they're like, what do? We don't have these tools. You know, and I'm like, well, don't spend your own money on this kind of stuff. Let's see, you know, like this is expensive. To ask a mechanic to spend 30,000 on tools is.
Yeah, so Charles, we're buying them now.
Yeah.
Right.
Now
Well,
they're
not
ours.
only that, but I'm thinking of, like, well, let's say these lifts. I mean, one mechanic isn't using the lifts, aren't all?
Oh, I don't think the
mechanics
lifts-
periodically
No, what's that?
using the lift?
Yeah, I
Oh, no.
don't, they're not buying lifts, it's just the tools.
I know, I was trying to
Right.
use it as an
Oh, yeah,
example though of,
Right.
welders or things like that. I mean, more than one person is using them.
Right. They share them. They share them.
Your socket wrenches and those kind of things, those used to be personal.
Yeah.
Now we're buying those.
I remember, would these lifts be the ones that we were considered portable lifts?
Yes, they're portable lifts.
And we only bought two back when?
So back then you bought a set of 4, a set of 4, and a set of 2.
Okay,
So we need the other 2 to complete the set.
and that's the $50,000 piece.
Right.
The question back then, and I guess it still remains even more so now. Don't we have some fixed lifts?
We have one fixed lift in there
Oh.
that they
just the
drive
one.
on.
Is the plan in the new? Well, it's too bad. Pretty sure to ask that question.
More fixed lifts over there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it always seems strange to me to have.
That was perhaps less than efficient planning 25, 30 years ago when we built the facility, so. But
Well, I think we built.
probably had less demand for
Back
it.
then, we built this building, the great big empty building. We thought that was all great. We did good, right? Forgot how to use it.
Use it, put stuff in it. Oh, yeah. All right, anything else for Dave?
thank you.
Did you bring the back truck up, Dave?
Oh, do you want
The
to
back,
talk,
oh, yeah, the
you
back.
want to talk about the
Yeah,
back?
Dave, yes, let's talk about, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
So, currently we use a clam truck. We wanna purchase a Vector. I'm looking at using old money from when we would purchase the wash bay and pave the site that we're currently in.
Right.
I have a state contract bid of 549, 246 for the Vector. The reason, I didn't look at this money before because, we didn't know if we were gonna stay there or not. But it's an invaluable piece of equipment that we could use that would really help us in our fight with the drainage in town. We run into a lot of clogged pipes, roots. Actually have a homeowner right now who has a clogged pipe. That requires having someone come for $6,000 to jet it out. Something that, we could use it. We would use it all the time. It would improve the outfall of all of our waterways. The fire department could also use it. It hooks up to their emergency response equipment. We checked when we demoed one of them. It also has the option to hydro excavate, which is nice because when you're dealing with underground utilities, instead of poking around with shovels and touching utilities that you shouldn't be, we're using water and vacuum to suck all the earth around the what we need to excavate. When we go to a job, we have pipes that a lot of times you'll see a basin and then you'll see a hole in front where there's a failure. That's a failure of the pipe usually. So instead of sending the backhoe and digging this ginormous hole to get to this pipe, you can do hydro excavation. Just cut your asphalt where you need to, hydro excavate it, and go in there and just patch the pipe. Get through the winter or until you can get in there and replace it. We would auction off our clam truck at that point. And we would just use this machine. This machine would be really, really good tool, an important tool to us in our fight, basically to clean out the basins and the pipes that we have right now. I think it's something that we should consider. We have dry wells in town too. We have basins in town that we can't even get into with our clam because whenever they put the basins in, there was ledge there, or Mulberry Point's a prime example. If you go look at a basin over there, there's a piece of ledge sticking out. You have about this much space to get in there and clean that basin. The only thing that can get in there is Vector. So we never clean that basin because we can't. And we have basins like that all over town. So with a Vector, you can get in there and do that. There's attachments you can get down the road. You can get a root cutter. So if you have roots in a pipe, it will go right in and it will cut all the roots right out, rip them right out. You could add a camera. Something happens down the road, we need to see what the pipe looks like. You can put a camera attachment on the front. You can get pictures and see streamed right to your phone. Okay, this is what the pipe looks like. We have a hole here. We need to replace this pipe. We don't know until we open or excavate or when the hole shows up. So this would help us. I really think that it's something that, I'd like to go forward with purchasing. And like I said, it's old money that we have. I know it's
Still money.
right. It's still money, but it's something I asked the vendor, how long is this good for? And they said, it's good for a month. And then after that, they're looking at substantial price increases. So that's why I brought this to the attention.
Because your only other option would be to put it in your bond authorizations for this coming, and we wouldn't get it until next year, and then this money could be used towards the new project, but because of the pricing, it's coming forward in this fashion.
And your commission has recommended this as well. They've signed
They
off.
have, they voted on it and signed off on it.
Definitely be a big help for the fire department too, as far as trench rescues and building collapse.
I don't know what trench rescue means. I'm sorry.
Well, so if somebody's, when you dig a hole, okay, and workers are in it, okay, and we've had these unfortunately in town where the drench collapses on the individual and pins them in.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and this thing will actually start sucking the dirt out. So, we have all that equipment to do that. We have the trench panels and that kind of stuff.
Because not everybody uses trench boxes when it's.
Right, not everybody uses
Right.
trench boxes.
And I see that all over the place in town from private contractors, but with us, if that happens, the fire department needs help, we're going in there with a backhoe. 'Cause that's all we have. So
You have anything else? Same thing, I have the same question I had last week. You've made a good case for the machine. It's a lot of money, it's logical, it came a little bit of a surprise, that type of thing, but I don't really have a problem with the machine. I do struggle a little bit with, what do we do with all this water? I mean, I'm just spoiled. I'm worried about, we're spending, it was a surprise a little bit this year about how much it costs to get rid of the spoils from the, what do we call it? Stump dump, or whatever you call it. And now it seems like, we're gonna have to create a pond and everything else, and it's one thing to be able to call a contractor and pay the money to have contaminated soils taken away. It's gonna be a lot different thing if we contaminate any waterways up there. And that was my biggest question from a week ago. Will this machine create greater potentially contaminated wastewater, not only soils, but wastewater at this point? That's my struggle last week.
So it won't create any extra wastewater than what we're putting up there now with the clam. If you think about it, we go there, sometimes it's raining and we clam, it's the same water.
But you said you're using water to evacuate sewers or areas. You're adding water to the system and vacuuming it out. That's what I
Right.
understand.
So I talked with Janice about it. We would make a retention pond or a drying field. We wouldn't affect any of the water course over there. We would have the area marked out so that we knew where to put
We
it.
would have to create a pond, and she's confident, and because I know last week she was here when we had this discussion. That's my only concern about this new system. It makes sense. I understand the logic of it and all of that type of thing, but I would be very disappointed if in a few years we found out that the retention pond or whatever didn't work and we had a bigger contamination problem than we potentially have now. That's my only reservation about this. And that's not a reservation, because I know you've worked out the financing of it and the logic of it and all of that. It's not my reservation about making this investment this year. But it is somehow to get it on record that, we have to be very careful of the spoils up there.
Right, we would be very careful, and we would follow whatever guidance DEP had for it, and we'd make sure that we were.
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in Janice and working through with the DEP and making sure that's right, but that's.
This item's on your agenda at the end, and you want Janice to come over for it, would you feel more comfortable?
No, because we're not making a decision now on this and everything. I'm gonna keep
Just wanted to be
repeating
sure.
it so that everybody, Janice was at the last meeting and I think I made the same point then, and you know, if we were to go forward with this, I know we've got a little bit of a timing issue on this particular item. I don't know, I'll talk to Matt and maybe you might talk to whoever, just to solidify or reinforce or codify or whatever the words would be to emphasize that, watching where the spoils go is very important, you know, whether we have to see the plan for the retention pond or whatever. I don't want to necessarily attach it to this, and I do trust both your department and engineering's department to do the right thing. But I just want to put on record again and again.
Yeah, Charles, I agree with you. The one comment, maybe more, but Janice would not jeopardize her seal or engineering license with DEP, particularly after how far we've come with DEP when, and gee, this is not the first time we've talked about renovating that area and creating more safeguards for the materials that we're responsible for managing in that area. So I'm comfortable that Janice will work out the solution. It's just already figured out that there is a solution.
Yeah, but is that solution $1 million, you know, processing facility?
No, it's something that we would just build in-house. We could totally
Yeah.
build it in-house.
Okay.
All right. I know this isn't on the agenda, but do we want to
It
contemplate?
is on the agenda.
It is, oh, that's
It
right.
is, it's the very end.
Oh, yeah, it is. Item number 2.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
Why
why I
don't
was
we-
prepared with all
yeah,
of my paperwork.
Yeah. Why don't we get through the last 2 info systems and then Park and Rec, and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Want Dave to stay for any further comments, or you think?
No, I.
Yep.
Thanks,
Someday
Dave.
someone will
Thanks.
miss it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony. Joel getting out of your chair there?
Sure. Mine's gonna be quick.
So,
Good afternoon, Tony.
Afternoon.
What have you got?
All right, this is gonna be simple. The replacement PCs, I wanna up that $8,000 for 2 reasons. We have probably about like 16 older desktops that will not allow us to upgrade to Windows 11. Windows 10 is end of life come, I think, October. And the other reason, I don't know what the prices are gonna end up being with stuff going on in 25 and 26, so. And the other thing this year is we have 1 or 2, I think it's only 1 network attached storage that's pretty old, and that's end of life as well. Just kind of, we use it for our backups. So I need to replace that. And
So replacement PCs, we're going with laptops.
no, so
We take out desktops or not?
those will mainly be, there may be a few laptops in there, but the majority is gonna be desktops. There's quite a few users that don't need laptops.
And you guys have done that,
Yeah,
that evaluation.
yes.
It's just, it was only a couple of years ago where we were scrambling to have as much mobile computing capacity as possible.
Do we have more than 50%? Now, definitely. And they're more money too, so the desktops, right now, we're getting them $750 around there.
Really?
Yeah,
We found a sale.
found a sale.
Dell?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
And if I heard someone mention about our future's kind of, I don't know, I don't have anything for future. Other than what's in here, replacing a few servers.
Oh, that's,
I'm sure things could come up next year, but right now we're pretty good.
Trust us, we try to think of
Oh, yeah,
Well, we-
you know me, I like
we-
tech.
we've
I always
been
want
on-
to spend
we've-
something.
We've been on a little
Yes.
spending spree
I
the
was just
last
gonna
couple of
say, we
years.
have invested quite a bit over
Right,
the
so it's
last
really just replacement
four,
now.
3 or 4 years, so that it's nice to come at to maybe be at a holding pattern.
Lower, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's about it.
The password issue hasn't become too problematic yet.
Password issue?
Constantly memorable.
Not for you, but for
The money's not gonna help you here,
Yes.
Charles.
For in-house, it's pretty good now. The system we use in-house for the end users
23 characters.
works well. And we don't change them. So there's a little bit of misconception with the password requirements out there in the world.
Good.
That's it. No questions?
No?
All right, last but not least. Damn.
Already?
Hey, Matt, I have to log out at 10 of 1 in case this goes long. And there's 52 items on there.
Well, we'll concentrate on 2026.
Thank you. I was wondering if that would be appreciated.
Yes. If you have questions on other years, obviously we'll have a.
Need to move for that last item.
Yeah. So,
Start with the last item.
well, if we get to the point, if we get close to that, we'll, to the 10
Interrupt.
of, we'll interrupt and do,
All right, thanks.
all right, Pam.
Okay, so I have 15 items to present to you today, and actually, as of the weekend, it may be reduced to 14, since we think we have someone that's going to donate to the project instead. I will get to that. How do we go about this? Do
Do you want to go,
Just go
you
straight
can
to-
follow this
This
list.
whole,
You got it?
right there, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I, in this one.
Okay.
So the very first one on the list is a playscape at the recreation center that needs to be replaced. Keep in mind that 32.3, I mean, as we all know, with playgrounds, they can range from, A to Z. So I went in and looked at, the size, of the area. So that's at the top level, 32.3. We can go anywhere from 15,000 to that, but I figured I would put in the top.
So
It's
that's a not
very
to
worn.
exceed.
Not to exceed. It's very worn. It's been there since, I think,
It looks kind of shabby.
Yeah.
it's very shabby. It's just old. It's
Yeah.
old. It's weathered.
Yeah.
I mean, the building's 32 years old, and I
Yeah.
suspect it's been in there 25 plus years.
Is that available to the public at all times, or is that just for the programs that are held there?
That's a great question, but I believe like right now it's preschool, because once the preschool's in session, but if it were not in session, I can't see any reason why kids that were there with their parents couldn't play on it. Without a doubt, and I think we can make that happen right now. I think it's fenced off just for preschool. I think it's a great question.
So 32 is a worst case, you might
Right, not
you
to
might
exceed.
spend as much.
I wouldn't spend more than that. It's a small area, however, I think that there could be more that can be done than what's currently there. Nowadays, there's a little bit more bells and whistles than
Yeah.
what that one shows.
Okay.
Moving on?
Yep.
So the next two are door replacements. One at Bittner Park, or not one, but doors at Bittner Park and then doors at Jacobs Beach. I mean, it's really the same problem, other than the difference between Jacobs and Bittner is there's a lot more salt in the air at Jacobs, but both are swelling, both are sticking. Jacobs, we had a situation this summer where we could not open the door. And there was a lot of hammering to open it, to get it open. So they're just in need of replacing. There's a lot of rust. It will improve the aesthetics, it will increase safety for the facility. And certainly we wouldn't want anybody stuck in there.
And one is a door for lower parking. I didn't quite understand that.
At Bittner?
Yeah,
Yeah, when you first drive in, the playground's to your left, there's the doors that are at the bottom. It's like a garage area.
oh,
And there's a
okay.
door to that, to
Thank
that section. So there's just, the price difference is that there's just more doors at Bittner and that
Is
larger
that,
facility.
that door at Bittner, an overhead door, or is it?
No.
just opens?
Yep, just opens, yep. They're all single doors, but again, and aesthetics don't look very good either. And again, just showing the wear and tear of years of use.
Plus, we've done some upgrades over the last couple of years up there. Right? Cleaned up the some ARPA funds up there. And we also
Right.
did the same thing at Jacobs.
Right, right. So now, I don't know if you've seen, but the playground is bringing in hundreds of people. And now utilizing those bathrooms, so those doors are being used every day. Certainly we'll close them off soon and get portables there, but. Yep,
All right.
keep moving.
Yep, Marcy.
So master park plan, I know this is big. I'm not quite certain whether the town of Guilford has gotten into master park plans or master plans before. I think I witnessed one in the records for Bittner, like a Bittner master plan years ago. Just because I've just come off having the experience of doing an entire comprehensive parks master plan. It took about a year. The company that quoted it, again, that's on the high. So that quote really came in at 115 to 130. It is a long process. However, I did bring a copy of what it looks like. It is, it is very extensive, and it goes through different concepts of every single park, what it can be. There's months of stakeholder meetings and commission and boards and finance and staff meetings. It puts together a really beautiful roadmap of what we can expect 10 to 15 years down the road. Helps with capital funding and planning. So I'm happy to can share that.
So
take a
does it
look at
evaluate the current and predict for the future? Is that
Yeah.
what it
Yep,
is?
it values everything that you have now. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And actually, we even had where once they put all the plans, the 26 different parks in the areas were there for the public to view. And then you went into a school and you had all those plans there, and you could put the dots on there as to what you liked and you didn't like. And, it weeds out, or I shouldn't say that, it weeds out the things that people really want to see, whether it's more trails or they want a community pool, or, I know we've been down that road before, I'm sure here. I remember that 20 years ago, but it does take a look at the current needs of the public and we know how they change every 10 to 15 years, how the needs can change. The trends change.
Would a plan like that be able to include other properties other than town properties? Because I know like the land trust is such a big part of.
And that's a yes. So we here in Darien also had two town facilities or two town areas that weren't parks that we included in here as well. But obviously, the more properties you put in, the more time it takes to evaluate. But I did think to myself,
But this 130 would include land trusts in that.
It could. It could. I know it's a 115 to 130, so there's some room there. This is the high end of it. Depends on how many additional town properties you'd want to add in there in the plan. Because I did think to myself as I was going to propose this, is if the town would be interested in taking a look at some other things within the town in one plan.
Something you're familiar with, you did this?
Yeah, year long.
Right.
Yep, and this is, our commission members, this is something like you see, there's so many pages tagged, I mean, you refer to it and you go back and really look at what the people said they wanted.
And the benefits are that it avoids over duplication or avoids.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives you, it flushes out what the people now, not 10 years ago, what's important at this point when we look at, our parks that we have right now, our town green, what our staffing is doing. When you look at our park staff, how many staff we have for all the amenities that we're taking care of. It just really dives into the department as a whole and all the parks that we're, and our park staff also does athletics at the school. So that would be another area where it will really dissect how much they're doing.
Right. So what I'm drilling toward is that this is an efficiency program.
And does the 130 include the staff that is, the people that are putting the report together? Do they run these like focus groups and meetings and things like that? So that's all part of that?
It's all part of that. Yep. So they drive through our entire department, staffing, efficiency there, the community center, parking. things
Board of Ed properties?
Well, I think we'd have to look at some of the Board of Ed properties because we manage them and maintain them, the fields anyway. So in this report, if we went through that they would include those athletic fields, because that's what we're currently doing, not their facilities. Yeah, no, I'm a little unclear as to whether we maintain those. That's a good question. I don't think so either. Yep.
I'm sorry, this is a little off piece, but do you think there's any reason or demand or rationale for a study of what Public Works looks after versus what you look after versus what Board of Ed looks after?
Well, to me, it seems very clear.
It's okay, you're content with it.
Right, it's clear. I mean, in terms of parks, the only thing that's different in terms of some of the different towns that I've worked with is that like our park crew in Darien didn't take care of athletic fields at the schools, strictly parks. Here, same crew, but our crew is taking care of the parks and the schools' athletic fields. But I feel like, Public Works is town properties, sidewalks, streets, we're parks. We are athletic fields for the schools. We are, community center, town green, that we maintain, town properties, but library, maintenance part of it anyway, outside.
I would almost prefer, especially if we're gonna make the investment in a large overview and a plan, I would almost prefer more comprehensive that would include Board of Ed, probably Public Works and that type of thing. I mean, what's the point of looking at?
Just a piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, especially with a land trust. I mean, that's a big part of our trail system.
Yeah.
Just got bigger, that 130.
Land trust have any money to put towards it?
I was gonna say, maybe the matches would kick
Because
in.
we have in here too is also the nature preserves, that we had 2 nature preserves. So you look at maybe Westwood trails, could be put in that system too. And
Well,
this
when we
is-
get further down the pipe, I mean, first decision is, do we want to make the investment in
Right.
planning? And then how big of an investment?
Right, and I included that as part of that fund balance planning. This is just one more master plan within that budget, whether you agree or
We can
disagree, but that's
afford
what
it.
I.
It sounds like a good idea. I mean, it does sound like a good idea.
Even just inventory of it all.
And once you do this, how long was the shelf life, would you say, of this plan before you come up
Well,
and say
12 to
you need
15
another-
years.
12 to 15
If
years.
not even more, but I mean, we know that trends change,
Yeah.
10 years from now.
And it gives you something to work on.
Yeah.
When you have that first one.
I also let you know too, I mean, this is one company, this is the quote came from the same company I used in Darien, however, there are many companies, so, it could be less.
I think there's a chance for a volunteer group forming to at least do, some of the legwork. Thinking about Gary and his committee for the facilities overview that he did.
Yeah,
I know, just a thought.
yeah, I'd like to think that would be good, however, this is the professional, background that they have to do the study.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, they
yeah.
know the particulars, they know, the focus groups are going to, so.
I
But
think
yeah.
Gary's committee would definitely be a group that they would
Right,
sit down with and go through with what they've done for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a separate group that would,
Oh.
do some of the legwork. Like I realize they have the expertise in the study, but
Right.
they come in and they don't know what we have in town. So, I don't know, just a thought of a way to shape the price
Yes,
down.
that's
Maybe.
it.
And I
have a
guess that's
volunteer
something that I
group.
can, as if the board decides to take a look at this, then certainly that's something to ask other vendors how they've handled that in the past and in different levels.
Or maybe they could say, well, this one little segment, if you had committed volunteers, could be done by them. But
Yeah.
you don't know, because you want this to have integrity at the, and I'm not saying volunteers don't have
Yeah.
integrity, but I mean, you want to get the information that you want.
It's a good question if you interview different.
Yeah.
If you were to interview different firms,
Mhm.
then that's a good question
How
to
would you
ask.
use it for volunteers to get your price down?
I guarantee,
Yeah.
I guarantee there's room there,
Right.
from vendor to vendor. How they, again, I hate to say it, but then when you go out to Darien, people are like, oh, that's the Darien price. Right? Right? It's kind of like the Guilford price. So I do think there's room to negotiate.
Yeah.
That's high, I think that's high end. All set, should I move on?
Yep.
Lighting for the new entertainment stage, as you know, we did get the stage in. I'm not certain why, the additional lights weren't ordered, just the basic fluorescent lights were, just that come with the stage are on it, so. They do have this package, it's $13,000, we can install it, I mean, to have such a incredible investment, to be able to have, the changing of the ambiance and the mood lighting and things that, to make it more spectacular, I don't think it's a lot to ask to really.
I know you've been aggressively using the program funds, but this 13,000, wouldn't that be a appropriate use of program funds?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree, but it still would go through this process, correct?
It would,
Yes.
Yeah.
but I mean, okay, so that's for us to think about, I guess,
Yes.
but
I think it's absolutely
That would be another.
perfect. Yes, I do. I think that would
Under
be
other.
perfect.
I
use
saw a
of
couple
funds.
things that could possibly be, yeah. Anyway, okay.
Vent track attachment. So I did attach pictures for the, I mean, I'm a picture person, so I needed to know what that attachment looked like. And of course, understanding, like we see large areas with the loader, right? However, these attachments and this particular attachment goes on the tractor. So the tractor therefore can go into smaller areas such as the library and areas that a loader can't get into. So we do have the tractor, we do have other attachments. Today, we have attachment for snow removal, but this is for aerating. And it is also, I thought it was replacing, but it's not, this will come in a turn. Right, we currently own 2 multitask vent tracks that we use for mowing and snow removal, but this attachment would be for aerating and seeding that we don't have for the small areas. So I thought it was a decent price.
So which, is this the SR 73? No. I'm trying to identify it on my list.
The vent track attachment for the aero seeder, 12,000.
Yeah, here's a picture. So it's an attachment that goes on a tractor.
It's on page 4, if you're looking at me. I know they're not numbers, but the second page back, the back of the second page. She's going in
I'm still
order of
following, right? Oh, yeah.
2026.
Mhm.
Did you find it?
I thought that picture we were looking for, we don't have that.
We don't
It's unclear both. I mean, I can pull it up.
Okay,
if-
no,
if
no,
you
no,
need- Yep.
that's fine.
So can you?
How much is it? Just tell me.
It's
how much.
12,500.
12,500.
And I mean, as you know, we seed about 30 plus fields, town buildings, town green, many parks, and it just would be a very versatile attachment for the guys to have so that they can get into those small areas.
In the middle of the.
And not having it, what they've been doing, what they've been doing in the past is walking and using a walker. So that would be much more efficient and. Let me know if you want me to move on. or-
Yes, please,
Yeah.
please.
Okay.
It's extraordinarily interesting, but we have been here for 4 hours and 10 minutes, so.
Actually, I'm in a really good position.
Yeah.
Get her out of here.
Nobody will stop you.
So Ford F-150. This, I have just been, in 9 months, have been watching what's been happening with the guys and our crew. And this would be an addition. As I told you this morning, we have, our fleet consists of 3 F-350s and 4 F-550s. But the fact that our supervisor is running around in a 350 while he's trying to go to every park, meet vendors, meet his staff, check on things, we need a more efficient vehicle to get around town all day long. And that would be the F-150. On top of it, he is commuting, so it doesn't make sense to commute with a 350. But this 150.
So is this just for somebody who has a lack of knowledge, this is a small pickup truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not driving big 350 around town when you're going to meet vendors to get quotes and check on your staff and go from Lake Q to Jacob's Beach.
So the
And
three
back.
fifty that he's currently driving will be utilized how?
Oh, back to the staff, because when we're currently, even when we're currently full staffed, we don't have enough vehicles. We're 7 and have 10 vehicles. So in essence, there's been times that Tony had to give up the 350 to go to the crew and he had no vehicle.
Yeah.
So.
Did I hear you say he's commuting with
Yeah.
350?
Tell us about that.
Yes.
Why is an employee commuting?
That was,
Different vehicle.
that's an arrangement that was worked out through HR and the commission for retention purposes for the employee, because the work, the scope of work he has does, in terms of manager, doesn't fit well into the stratus. So this was a retention item. That was-
And he's been
Dr.
back.
Cam and Matt and everyone,
And
I
he's also-
I
he's
have
also
to
on-
check
he's
out.
also on demand 7/24.
Lou has to
Lou has
go.
to
Do you
go.
want to do that other thing?
Yes, okay, let's do it, let's do
No,
it.
he just went right off.
Oh, that was.
He said, I have to go, and off he went.
5 minutes early. Okay, anyway, so this was a retention effort, recommendation came through the commission on holding him, trying to keep him here. It was, he's also classified as an emergency responder because of the snow plowing, et cetera. And all of the emergency responder positions in town have use of the vehicle for commuting.
What kind of mileage are we?
He's in what?
Killingworth. Yeah.
15, 20, yeah.
Even regardless of that, even just the amount of miles from Lake Q, like I said, to
Yeah,
Chapel
just-
Island.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, his job is not necessarily drive to one job and sit there for 5 hours. His job is, it's all over the place.
That's the next question then. I mean, 350 is not, or 150 is not an economical commuter either.
Well, I think
But
you
he
need
still
to
needs a
have the
truck.
pickup
He
because he
needs a
still
truck,
needs to load material. He's still going to work. And, it's interesting, in my previous position, the park supervisor was not in the union. So therefore, when he took the position, he was a little hesitant because he loved that hands-on work. And, here Tony is, still has the hands-on work. So it's not as if he's not in the trenches, because he is. So he needs to throw things in that pickup truck and get where he's got to get to. He can't drive a little car.
Okay. We're over.
I'll
You
just,
got it, all right.
I'll just use this point to just to point out that we provided the vehicle
Thank you.
inventory.
Yes, thank
Although there are
you.
very few vehicle requests, other than, please, but you do have it.
I was just gonna say, are the vehicle requests down this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought so.
This is
When you say no a couple of years, they come off the list.
Commuter people, I mean, I would think that's an insurance.
Dave Castro.
Could you print
no,
out
it's,
that?
it's
vehicle
not,
thing? Not today.
insurance
I just would
problem.
love to see it.
We're
I'm
covered.
gonna be
through
here
Chrome,
every day this week, I believe.
regardless of where
Yeah,
people are
just-
driving.
yeah, for you.
I mean, remember that health director woman that wanted to.
It's, just for discussion's sake, it's Dave Castro, it's Tony, the police chief, assistant police chief. Fire and lit fire, and assistant fire, yes, and the fire marshal,
Well, Steve Nyland, that's Steve Nyland.
and Steve as well,
Right.
yeah. So,
Steve Nyland.
all right,
Move on.
please.
Small capital equipment budget. Mary Jane, I don't know if you wanted to, because
My only she's looking to just have small items, and we have this in other budgets in operating. So, typically our capital, yes, it's $5,000, but we're talking small items.
it's
So
like
it's
snow
entirely,
blowers and.
it's entirely up to you, but, in Public Works and in we have small inventory items in the operating, so to be consistent, we could put it
Miscellaneous
there.
equipment.
Is this a new
Yes.
line?
Yes, it's a new line.
So we're continually busting our leaf blowers. We're using them 24 hours during the season. So this would just help us replace things as
So
necessary.
if this is a new line item, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
If this is a new line item, In capital, does that mean something's coming out of operating?
No, she doesn't have this line item anywhere. So if we don't fund, you can fund it in capital if you choose. I'm not gonna argue it with you, but if you were to do it in operating, it would be a new item in operating as well. It's gonna be new one place or the other. We can talk about that as we move forward. It's just,
Yeah.
Okay. Upgrading boat racks at Jacob's Beach. They're, as you know, I think, as you might know, we did replace 3 in-house this past winter. And we're just looking at continuing to do that. There is, let's see if I have that.
I think you told us they were in terrible shape.
I mean, they're metal ones that are just rusting.
Yeah.
So we took care of 3 right near the water, and right now we're just trying to tackle another 3 to 5, and it's done in-house. We just need some funds to do it. And it's a good winter project. So we plan on using some funds that we have now. This particular funding would be for the following winter
Okay.
to keep
This
moving ahead.
is for repair, not to increase the number.
This is to repair. Yeah.
Increasing the number usually comes from an Eagle Scout.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is Bittner C conversion, and this is the one that I've been in conversation with Little League about. And that 28.5, Rich, what I put into capital, we had another vendor that came in at 12.6. That's how different some vendors can be. So with that 12.6 number, Little League is very excited about wanting to donate to that so that we can get the project off the ground. However, I'm waiting. There seems to be a little back and forth with Little League versus softball and baseball. However, I figured I would discuss that here. I do have a special meeting already lined up with the Parks and Rec Commission for Wednesday night so that we can get that formal approval if it all washes out. So I'm gonna end up taking this out of.
yeah, it'll be a little bit before we finalize anyway, so we have time.
Okay.
So I don't know what field conversion means. We're just changing a field from one use to another?
Do you remember when Adams C was just given to softball? So they finally had a home softball field.
Okay.
Well, apparently, it used to be a baseball field, and there was some,
Restrictions.
Bad
yes,
blood.
yeah, they weren't, both sides weren't happy about it. They finally gave it up to the girls so it could be a softball field. But apparently the agreement was that Bittner C would become a baseball field. So today it's a softball field. They want to convert it back to a baseball field so that they have.
So there's no softball field at Bittner after this is done.
No, there still will be one, but this particular Bittner C softball will be converted back to baseball. Yep. So, and they're willing to put the funds toward it to get it done. Stand-on blower. This is a piece of equipment that was incredibly handy and efficient in Darien. We had 3 of them. I noticed that our crew doesn't have any. And I think seeing that the amount of time it takes our crew to put on backpack blowers and walk around even the town green, it takes 1 to 2 days to clear the green of leaves. And this stand-up blower, they do have a current blower attachment, but it's over 15 years old and they no longer use it. It's underpowered and worn. It was kind of similar to, operating machine that would blow, but this stand-up blower could be used everywhere.
Has there been any discussion with the golf course? Is there
They have one as well.
no, they were asking for some.
They were looking for a
super
vac.
duper
Oh,
machine.
I understood from Tony, I believe, I thought that the golf course had one where they had
No,
used it.
they came in.
Well, they do have a stand-up. I believe they do have a stand-up blower.
I'm just thinking
stand-up
of
blower.
this fancy new machine they were.
Yeah,
asking
that was just a vacuum more than it was.
But that would be used on the green.
Green.
Well, what's
yeah.
a-
Is there
Yeah,
any-
so we need to
yeah,
talk, we
instead
need
of
to talk to
this.
Dave,
Okay,
all right?
Dave Castro?
Yeah, please.
Or
No, I mean,
Ted,
no.
Ted.
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 Got it.
Ted,
Yes, Ted at the
golf
golf
guys.
course. Okay. In terms of,
Nothing else.
they're looking to get one as well.
Vacuum.
Oh, back. Okay, because we have one too. So
No,
when,
but this is not a vacuum. This is some kind of a,
Trying to
it looks
find
like a
what's
zero
going on.
turn, but it's got a big bin on the back.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that, I want to make sure everybody's talking about the same machines and which machines are better.
Okay.
da, 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 da.
Okay, fair game. Next is replacing the gas stove in the community center kitchen. The stove has been there since the opening of community center, so it's 32 years old. Again, 15,000 is on the high end. There are, they range anywhere from 8,000.
Is it gonna make it till next year?
Yes, it's not as if we've been fixing things here and there, but even parts are getting hard to find.
Yeah.
When you have to, replace something, so I think it's a very good time to get it done. Paving Bittner rear parking lot. I don't know if you've been there lately, but the back parking lot is a mess. And now that we have a disc golf, we have pickleball, we have skate park, we have trails, we have basketball court, it's just a medley of potholes. Apparently they've been patched in the past, but it really needs to be redone and over. It gets
I
so much
didn't even think
use.
that was paved. That's actually a repave. I thought
That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, it looks like there has been some paving, but it's a lot of crushed stone too. But then potholes and it really,
Yeah,
It's just dirt.
it's
I
just.
don't think that's ever
it's-
been paved.
Yeah. So it's a bumpy ride in there. It's a bumpy ride.
We call that pave instead of repave.
Yeah, true. Bathhouse at Lake Q improvements, I put 25,000. I did look into ClearGov today and I didn't put a backup in there. I'm just probably waiting for that backup. And the backup that I do have is only 18,000, so we can reduce that. That is about the urinal, replacing the urinals, replacing the rusty partitions, getting the floor painted. So clear bathroom improvements.
So you said it's gonna 18 instead of 25?
Yes, actually it came at 16, but I like to tag on like 10 to 12% for.
Oh, we gotta remember that number.
It is a year and a half later.
I know, I heard the
Finally,
tack
somebody
on.
gets it out loud.
Tack on.
Exactly.
And finally, a Toro Z-Turn diesel 6-foot mower would be replacing our 2010. That gets excessive use. It's the favorite of the maintenance crew. It operates 6 to 7 hours per day, 5 days a week, for 8 months out of the year.
Does it have any, would it still have any more life in it if you got this, would you, or would you?
Doesn't have
dispose-
doesn't have much life in it, but we'll use
Right,
it
you
till it.
Dispose of it.
It's a lot of use, but they wouldn't dispose of it. It was still working, but it's,
Until it went bang.
it's also one of those machines that, matter of fact, I talked to Mary Jane maybe not only 5 months ago and thought we were gonna have to ask for additional ARPA money to replace this one because we couldn't find parts for it. But now they found the parts, so we're able to keep using it. So it is one of those things where it's getting more difficult because it's so old. And that concludes my presentation.
I hate to bring this up, but where is the money for whatever ends up happening next to 50? Where's the money for 52 Church Street? For whatever plan there is.
We've got money in
We've
the
set
building.
aside money.
We have some
fund
set
amount,
aside,
yes,
okay.
yeah. set
That's all I
aside.
needed to know. We don't have to discuss it now, correct?
Oh, can't we go to that this way?
Forever.
I just have one to add.
Oh, you do?
A last minute addition, and you're sitting at it. We would like to, Darlene, you
Like
did
to
it.
spruce up this conference room and get more efficient tables that have the power ports in them.
Oh, that would be nice.
USBs and different color theme,
That's great.
new chairs and tables with wheels on them so we can move them around for different functions. Something similar to what the police department just did over in their community room, just a different color scheme is what I'm thinking. Same color scheme that we did in the small conference room. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to look at it.
Yeah, if you stop in there, you'll see the new tables that have the ports
It's nice.
in the tables. So the quote is $12,000.
Okay.
So,
Put it on the list.
yeah, just fine, we've been asking for the quote for a while, but we just got it on Friday, so.
Is the intention to replace like for like, or are we gonna try to better maximize the use of this room, or is there a way to do that?
Well, you can talk with Darlene.
I currently just replaced what we had here, but I am certainly open to any other
I'm
suggestions.
not saying we need to do anything more than that, but just, be ashamed to put something in and then, a couple
Yeah.
years later say, oh, we really needed this.
Just so you know, the quote is for 4 24 by 60 mobile tables with power, 1 42 by 96 rectangular conference table with power, and 30 new chairs. That's
The
the,
chairs are stackable, so we can
yeah, they're stackable.
rearrange and move things.
I thought we were gonna do a whole new town hall someday.
Eventually, eventually.
It's not
Well, we
that
can
bad.
move
This is just
tables.
furniture.
We can move tables to the new town hall.
Portable.
Well, my only point is, being on other boards and other boardrooms. This needs an update. Yeah, I think you've done a great job with the technology, and I gotta give you 100% credit for that. Because I use this as an example of, for other boards, of how good technology can be.
Thank you.
Uh,
That was born of necessity.
Of course,
Right.
but necessity, it happened very fast. You were well ahead of many other boards that I'm on. So, and the technology is very good.
Yeah.
But.
Also, it's not, I mean, internal people
your own
here use this room,
configuration,
but a
just
lot of the
doesn't work.
volunteer public uses this room for various committees and commissions. So I think that would be great.
It's in high demand, so.
Yeah.
you know, that was-
I don't know how you will feel sitting in these chairs for the last 4 hours, but I can tell you I'm pretty uncomfortable. They've been here longer than me. They've been here well over 25 years. So
Probably when this
Well, as long
room
as
is
we don't
made.
have to get, as long as we don't have to get rid of the old chairs.
No, we gotta.
We'll find a spot for those.
yeah, we'll
But we're not gonna replace it with chairs like that.
Those are 1890s.
Yeah.
I've got a plaque. I have a little plaque. We got those done. They came out of this building, but it was an auditorium.
There were 500 seats on the ground floor, reduced to 350 after the stage increased in size.
If you ever want some movie theater seats, I have 3 sets of them.
From here?
Wow, it was a Shoreline Alliance fundraiser.
You've been on? You're good.
I'll be here for a little bit still.
I'm just gonna give it to
All
And
right.
they're in pairs.
I think. Like,
Got it. Thank you.
okay, Pam, thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
So we'll add this, and if you want to make changes to it, again, we have time.
Put it under the select.
Yes, yep. All right, so that's it except for,
Except for item 2. All right. Do we want to talk, item 2, it just has to take possible action on resolution to transfer unexpended bond funds to purchase a basin cleaning truck. Charlie, you seem to support it with the caveat.
it's not, this is
we make
not
sure
on this.
Yeah,
This
We
is-
have, we have our eyes dotted and T's crossed.
Did you have road pack up?
Being done right, but
Not anymore.
I agree with you that Janice has got it done.
Right.
So this is a resolution from, done by our bond council. The original resolution, was for $1.135 million, and it was, for basic improvements for town roads and improvements at Department of Public Works site. And since, buying a vehicle is not the same as,
Right.
work at the Public Works site where we could just, do something, it does need, approval, of you, so it's a very small resolution, that just gives me the authority to move $580,000, or not to move it, but to reallocate the funds of $580,000 from the way it is currently listed as infrastructure improvements to a purchase of the basin cleaning truck
And
within that same authorization.
And we have the blessing of bond counsel.
Oh, he's the one that wrote, yeah,
He wrote it.
bond council wrote the resolution and
Dave's back.
That wasn't, what, that doesn't, I mean,
it doesn't
he
say.
doesn't say in here.
But
that he is
what I
It
plan to,
says as determined by the finance director.
right, so, I asked him about that, I said, it doesn't say much, so I'm going to attach the original authorization to that resolution to show where it's coming from. This is the money that we're talking about.
Okay, but we don't have anything in writing from bond council saying that we can do this, that they believe that this expenditure is within the purpose of what was approved.
He wouldn't have written that if it was, yes, well, I probably have an email. I mean,
No.
tell me what you need and I can get, he's the one that approved it, so. You know, I have a phone conversation with him and he sends me a resolution, so. I get,
I don't
I
know.
mean, I gladly get a letter from him or whatever you like, I mean,
Am I the only one who thinks that this is,
I'm not hiding anything, it was
Yeah.
approved by him, not by me, so.
yeah.
Sometimes
No,
I,
I
sometimes I have the authority to do that, the resolutions give the first selectman and the finance director authority to.
It's a legal opinion on the appropriateness of the expenditure, I think, right? But you know what? Would you feel more comfortable having that, something in writing that he,
I
Yeah,
mean,
but it isn't so much him. I mean, that's just one more person's opinion. What Susan's point is, you know, the voters approved one thing and we're buying $500,000 truck.
well, that's what I said, your other option is to
Go through the whole
go
process.
through the whole process, but we lose the pricing we have today, and that, so be it, that's
I'm
what
not
we
as
have.
much concerned about, well, I should have asked the question when he was here, or of the commission.
Dave is
if
online, if
this-
you have a
Dave is
question,
here
if
right
you
now.
have a question for Dave, he's online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well.
Well, you said you should have asked the question.
Philosophical question. You're right, but this is a philosophical statement, I guess. Is the commission, they're obviously very much aboard this truck and they made a very convincing argument how valuable it would be and everything. You know, what my question might have been in a particular setting, what are you prepared to give up to get this truck?
well, they were prepared to give up a truck bay and repaving, but that's a moot point, right? That's a moot point, so.
Yeah, I mean, there is no answer to that. I mean, this is, you know, the why I'm supportive of it is because our new director has impressed me with, his attitude to running the department and
Innovation.
making decisions on innovation and that type of thing. And there's he's made a good case for this piece of equipment. It's just that it's $500,000. You know, to Susan's point, you know, we weren't talking about 6 months a year ago. And I'm okay with that because 6 months a year ago, Dave wasn't here. You know, so I'm okay with it. And he's made a good case for the truck and everything. You know, my concern about the spoils. And to Susan's point, yeah, it's not what the voters were presented with. Simple as that. But I think as leaders, I'm comfortable with, as long as the finances are not shady in any
Right.
way,
So
shape, or form.
So Matt Ritter's reasoning was that the projects themselves were not specifically referenced in the original resolution. It doesn't say wash bay. So how the voters approved it didn't specifically list what that was gonna be. It didn't say a vector either. I'm just saying, I'm just giving you, I'm looking up my emails from him, that's all.
Is the original in board pack? The original?
The original, no, I brought it for today. We can certainly scan it in and get it in there.
Sure.
Sure.
You could buy.
I got it.
What do you need?
I can do it.
Some copies, Bob?
I'm up already.
Oh, yes. No, I got it.
So.
I mean, I agree. I'm convinced that it's a valuable thing for us to have. There's a lot of good use for it. I feel better if I knew that there wasn't some other $500,000 thing that we've never heard of,
that we
you know,
didn't
that you've
have to
got
buy.
planned for down the road. But here we are, so I just really hesitate over this.